Things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucks. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. As always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Recher podcast. Happy Friday to you and yours. It is March 7th, 2025. Where has the year gone already? I mean, January and February just came and went so quickly. I know I said that yesterday. I felt it even more today. Glad to be with you today on the program. A very special show today. Tomorrow is International Women's Day. And from dating back to my time when I was over there at WDAE for iHeart, every single year that I was in the host chair, I wanted to do something special on International Women's Day because we have a lot of wonderful females that work in and around the sports industry, and I think it's a great time to highlight them. And it's not something that I just do on a day like today. I know there is National Sports and Girls Day, but listen, it's not just national, it's international. We're recognizing everybody, and it's not just in sports either. So we have a lot of great guests coming up on the show today. I had a lot of lines in the water trying to get many people on, but I know that the Buccaneers are doing a special event today as well. So, hey, we did what we could, and we have some fantastic guests. No regrets, no remorse whatsoever. I am so excited about the show today. You guys ready for this lineup? Here's going to be joining us on the program at 12:10 today. Stephanie Hypes is going to join us from out there in Arizona. She works for the WWE. What does she have to say about John Cena's heel turn? Also, there's actually an announcement that the WWE is coming here. They'll be here in the Tampa Bay area. So I cannot wait for that. What's that all about? We'll tell you here in a bit. Then at 12:30, Tricia Whitaker is going to hop on with us. We remember Tricia Whitaker from her time with when it was Bally or the FanDuel Sports Network. Tricia always did such a great job as the sideline reporter with the Tampa Bay Rays. She's no longer with Tampa Bay. She's going to be working strictly with Apple TV. So we're going to talk all things baseball with her at 12:30. At 1 o'clock, a lot of people have asked me, how did you become the way that you are? Why are you the way that you are? And you can find out at 1 o'clock today because my mom, Sue Recher, is going to join the show today at 1 o'clock. So come back at 1 o'clock and ask a bunch of questions. That'll be your time to find out how I became the way I am. And if you want to ask the person that's responsible for it all, my mom will join us today at 1 o'clock. Then at 1:45 today, Alison Harbaugh hops on USF Women's Lacrosse. Yes, that name sounds familiar. She is the daughter of one John Harbaugh, the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. What does she have to say about playing lacrosse over there at Notre Dame? And then now here at USF in their inaugural season under Coach Mindy McCord. And then we'll finish it up at 2:05 today with our good pal, Gabby Shirley of the Tampa Bay Lightning, as she gives us updates from practice today out in Brandon. The Lightning with a big 6-5 win last night. We'll get to that momentarily. Here's the update. Actually, you know what? We'll save that for Stephanie when she joins the show, the WWE announcement, because I'm super excited about that. But yeah, so Gabby will join us at 2:05. She's out there in Brandon right now at practice. A couple of guys aren't skating, and it is the 5 guys that were involved in the Four Nations face-off, and that is Victor Hedman, that is Brandon Hagel, that is Braden Point, Anthony Sorelli, and Jake Gensel. One of the big things that you could take away from the game last night was, first off, Lightning got 2 points. 2 points is 2 points. It is what it is. Doesn't always have to be pretty, and as I like to say, it doesn't have to always be a Picasso, right? They don't ask you how pretty it is. You just go out there and you win. They were able to bounce back, right? They came out early. They came out of the gates flying, and then they gave up the lead, but they were able to chip away. Jake Gensel, the hat trick last night, that is the reason why you go out and get a guy like that, because he had the ability to just drag the Tampa Bay Lightning into the fight when they weren't playing their best. That guy now has 32 goals in the season, and I don't think you could have asked for a better campaign from him in his first year with Tampa Bay. That guy is a factor. He's a winner. He scores big goals. I can't wait to see what his contribution is going to be come playoff time. Also, game one for Yanni Gordon, Oliver Bjorkstrand. And guess who scored the game winner last night? Oliver Bjorkstrand himself, another guy who's got a knack for scoring big goals. We didn't mention this with Double E a couple days ago, nor yesterday on the show. 2 years ago, they played Colorado. I think it was in the first round. And Seattle went to a game 7 and they won 2-1. Who scored both those goals? Oliver Bjorkstrand. So he, again, another guy who's got that clutch gene, another guy who's got that knack for scoring big goals. And I mean, Yanni was Yanni last night. They both started, I think, a little bit slow, and I don't say they play poorly at all. But you could just tell they were kind of getting their feet wet. But those last two periods, those guys were all over the place. John Cooper was heaping a lot of responsibility. And Yanni, he almost scored a goal. He had an assist on that Bjorkstrand goal as well. That was just one of those wild and crazy games. That's why you love hockey. It's not always going to be a 1-0, a 2-1 game. Ideally, you would want them to play better defense. But listen, it happens. What are you going to do? You're just going to bitch and moan and complain about it like, oh, man, I can't believe we get – no, you give up 5, you score 6. Sometimes you got to do that. I love that. He was incredible. And like our friend Stephanie says, Yanni was a heat-seeking missile. And then one of the big stories coming out of last night as well was what the heck happened with Nikita Kucherov at the end of the second period. Now, for those of you who don't know, and I put it up on social media, you know what, let's play it for you here because, I mean, it's got some good rub here on Twitter and Instagram. This is what happened last night for Cooch. Oh, of course. Yeah. Here we go. This is Nikita Kucherov. This is everything that happened last night. Instead of me explaining it to you, this is what happened. This is the video that I made last night. This is, again, why you want to follow me on all social media platforms at Recher. And, you know, you can let us know for yourself. What do you think happened with Nikita Kucherov last night? And we asked John Cooper the same thing. Here it is.
Back from Amalie Arena. Here's a shot of Nikita Kucherov at the end of the second period, and he was none too happy. Didn't play the last 7 minutes and 20 seconds, and that led to speculation that John Cooper benched him. And we've seen it before, and people were wondering he wasn't playing great defensively. He was turning the puck over. Did he get benched again? Well, up in the press box, we could see that he got hit with the puck, and he was hunched over. Brian Engblom and I were sitting up there, and we were watching him. He was clearly not 100% for a while there. So we didn't know. Was he injured? Did he get benched? So Ed Encina from the Tampa Bay Times, our good buddy, he asked John Cooper after the game, what happened with Cooch?
Well, there was a lot like it. And I think the line needs a little reset. And probably as much as our team did, it would have never lasted that long, other than the fact that he got hit with the puck when he was going out. So it's like a complete unfortunate circumstance. So that, you know, like damn leg or it. So it kind of rolled right into the shift and then power play. That's not so it's a tough time for that, but it was
So that was what John Cooper had to say. Could both of those things be true? Maybe. He wasn't playing well. He was turning the puck over. That one turnover led right to a goal by Gigi Paterka. And we've seen John Cooper bench Nikita Kucherov before. That was a masterclass right there of protecting your player at all costs and not letting it festering into something. And sometimes coaches want to be so overly transparent and honest that they don't care if they throw their players under the bus. And as much as we think that they have a responsibility to be honest with the media, in my opinion, the first responsibility that you have is to your team and to your players. Something like that, if he comes out and says, Cooch is pouting, he was acting like a child, he needs to get, benched when things like that happen. I mean, what does that do? What does that help? That thing festers, it continues, like it becomes a moot point now. People just move on. It's like, yeah, well, it is what it is, and it's a non-story. So I thought he handled it well. I do think, I saw him get hit with the puck, and Brian Engblom and I were definitely looking at him on the bench, and he had his head down. He was hunched over. So, yeah, I think that had something to do with it, but I also don't think that John Cooper and the Lightning coaching staff were rushing to get him out there because he wasn't playing well defensively. But when you can play like that when Cooch makes some mistakes and Victor Hedman, who's not on the ice today for practice, John Cooper says it's up in the air whether he's going to play on Saturday or not. But when you can play like that, so poor defensively, Vazzy didn't have his best game. Cooch sat out for the last 7 minutes of the second period, and then you lose Victor Hedman due to injury. I mean, like, that's if I'm a Lightning fan, I'm looking at it going, we can win in a multitude of ways. We can win when things aren't going well. And I think that's the hallmark of a great team. The hallmark of a great team is that you're able to win when you don't have your A game, when you don't have your best stuff. And you see that a lot in baseball with pitchers, right? Sometimes a great pitcher is going to get on the mound and he's like, I have no feel for my curveball today whatsoever. I can't throw it for strikes. I can't throw it when I'm ahead of the count. So what do? Do you abandon the pitch? Maybe. Do you abandon the outing? Do you just put your hand up and say, can't do this? No, you find a way. You find a way to get it done. And that's what the Lightning did yesterday. So a day off for them and then back on the ice Saturday afternoon against the Boston Bruins. More and more deals are being made in the National Hockey League, including Andrei Kuzmenko going from the Flyers to the Kings, Anthony Beauvillier earlier today going to the Capitals, and then Josh Norris and Bernard Docker going to Buffalo for Dylan Cousins, Gilbert, and a second in 2026. A big deal there. Dylan Cousins, a guy that we saw last night, not necessarily trying to get into the fray when there was a dust up around the net last night, and I think that kind of caught some of the people off guard. Like, what's going on here? Why is he doing that? Why is he stepping back like that? You got to be able to stick your nose in there and to get it dirty a little bit. And for me, when I watch that Buffalo Sabres team, there's so much young talent. I'm watching that game last night. How is Tage Thompson not on Team USA? What an incredible shot that youngster has. There's no reason why Bill Guerin should not have put him on that team. Maybe it's a different outcome. Maybe U.S. beats Canada if Tage Thompson's on the team. We don't know. But there's a lot of young stars, young players on that Sabres team. It's almost surprising how poor they are, how bad they are when you have, you had Cousins and Tage Thompson and Benson, and then on the blue line you have guys like Owen Power and Russ Mustaline. They seem to like the guy they have in Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. I don't know. He's an okay goalie. I don't know if he's a guy to really take him over the hump, but I don't know how, if you're a Buffalo Sabres fan, you're really excited about what is going on with your team. You're excited about your football team, but when it comes to your hockey team, you're looking at the other squads in the Atlantic Division going, we're not catching Toronto. We're not catching Tampa Bay. We're not better than any of these other teams. What do? You got to shake it up, and maybe that's step one in the right direction today by trading a guy like Dylan Cousins. Maybe you get a little bit more grit. Maybe you trade some of these young players for a guy that's 27. Maybe a guy that's a little bit more of an established star. Because if you don't, it's just the same thing over and over again. How many years have we been waiting for Detroit and Ottawa and Buffalo to take the next step? It's been the same freaking teams in the Atlantic Division. It's been the same four. I mean, Boston's probably not going to make the playoffs this year. I doubt it highly. But it's been Boston and Florida and Toronto and Tampa Bay for a while, and everybody keeps saying, watch out for Montreal. Here comes Ottawa. Watch out for Buffalo. When's Detroit going to get better? I mean, we just don't see it. They trade for players. They try to develop players. They bring in new coaches. They have general managers that were here in Tampa Bay. It just doesn't work. The only real contribution that we've seen from Detroit in this trade deadline, all the scenarios that have been going on out there, is the assistance that they've given the Tampa Bay Lightning to bring that deal together with Yanni Gordon and Oliver Bjorkstrand, and taking 25% of that Yanni Gord contract. And I like what Benny's saying here. Tampa Bay find a ways. That is the hallmark of when this team is going well. That's what they do. You love to see it. Again, follow me on all social media platforms at JRecher. I am everywhere. Where am I going tonight? It is going to be a big one here in Tampa. Jesuit and TC, the top two teams from the 813preps.com rankings. There's going to be scouts out there. There'll be dignitaries and alumni everywhere. If you're thinking about like, hey, I got to go to a game, this is the game to go to this year. This is the game to attend because it is going to be wild. I cannot wait. It is super exciting to be able to see what Coach Paulie Russo's doing on the Tampa Catholic side. Also, what Miguel Menendez continues to do with the Jesuit Tigers. And there's no love lost here. There's a lot of respect, but it gets fiery. it gets really fiery out there on the field between these two teams. All right, let's switch gears and let's start off our special International Women's Day with the one and only Stephanie Hypes joins us on the program. What's going on? Thank you so much for joining us, and happy International Women's Day. I know it's tomorrow, but thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me. First of all, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I certainly can.
Awesome.
I
Awesome.
just got some good news pertaining to the WWE. They're announcing that Memorial Day weekend's coming to Tampa, baby. I can't wait. Main event,
No.
Battleground, Monday Night Raw, NXT. John Cena's going to be on Saturday night's main event. I mean, Stephanie, right now, I mean, WWE it's as hot as it's been in a long time here in the last 12 months.
Dude, it's insane. Like, I feel like it's like a whole nother world. Like, literally, I think 2-3 years ago, as a longtime WWE fan, you can admit it was bad. It was bad. Yeah, it was a little rough. And so, honestly, this Triple H era and him taking over and trying to find his way, find his groove, figure out what works for him, has it all been perfect? Absolutely not. But you can tell he's starting to understand. He's starting to listen to fans a little more. You can tell he's kind of chronically online. He makes comments all the time about stuff that we say online, which is pretty funny. But the fact they're actually trying to listen to that, right? Because people always credited Tony Khan for listening to his fans, and Vince was never doing that. And that could be either hit or miss. Sometimes it was great, and sometimes it was a big flop. A lot of the times, especially towards the end there. So Triple H trying to find his footing as, head of creative, head booker. I don't know. I think he's doing a great job. There's still a lot of room for improvement. Obviously, as most people, if anyone knows me, knows how much I love the women in pro wrestling. And so that's also very hit or miss, even in the Triple H era. So obviously we'll see how it goes. But, there's a lot of great things happening, and I'm excited. I'm very busy these days, so I can't be online all the time talking about it, but I'm watching, I'm tuned in, and
girl, you tweet a lot. Don't say you're not. You tweet a lot. You are on it. You are on it. I love it. You have every time I think of something and I see, I'm like, this girl, she just opinions for days. I love it. I mean, you're doing it. You're doing it big. Let's listen. We'll talk about the John Cena heel turn in a second, but it is International Women's Day tomorrow. We're celebrating all the lovely ladies today on the program. I even have my mom calling in at 1:00 describing my crazy on how the heck I got into wrestling by myself when I was a little kid. None of my friends, none of my dad, nobody. That was my whole thing. I decided that on my own. But let's get into the women. And I want to ask you about the Jade Cargill story. And I had former WWE, just everything, talent, Jonathan Coachman on last Friday. And I said, Coach, I think Jade Cargill comes back. And he goes, really? And I go, yeah, I think it's going to happen either at the beginning of the match or the end of the match. And when that music came on, it was just pure cinema. Looking at Liv Morgan, looking at Naomi, looking at Bianca Belair. And then she came in. And when you do something like that, you can't leave. And that's what I love about what Jade did and about what John Cena did. It wasn't like, oh, they missed a punch, or, oh, they did this. Like, that was an ass-beaten sandwich with 2 pieces of bread in the beginning of the night and the end of the night. And Jade looked like $1 million. And listen, we know Jade has her shortcomings in the ring. She doesn't have the experience of everybody else. That's going to come with time. She's got the look. She's got the charisma. Incredible athlete. And then I just love how that whole thing, because now for me, I look at that and I go, I don't think Naomi did it. Because if she does do it and without saying anything, then I think it ends there. But I think there's more to this story. There's more chicken left on the bone there of now, I'm starting to see maybe people think Bayley's involved, and, maybe Bianca was throwing people off the scent. Maybe it's somebody that we're not even talking about. What do you make of that entire situation? Not just, her performance day when she returned there at the Elimination Chamber, but the whole storyline.
I mean, this is what we've been asking for, right? Obviously, we want women to have more time on the shows. Obviously, we want them to have longer matches. That's all important. But more so, at least for me as a fan, I love stories. Right. I love something that gets my mind going, gets me thinking, gets my little suspicions up. And that's exactly what the story does. It involves multiple women. And it does have people talking about it online, right? Oh, and I'm totally investigator, I'm Sherlock Stephanie. I'm like, hold on, did you see this look? Did you see this video? Like, I'm one of the people who will interpret everything. It's what I love to do. I love to like be surprised, but I also love to try and figure things out. And I love being swerved, right? Like, I can think something's going one way and it's completely different. So I'm actually hoping for these ladies that this story isn't just a crystal clear answer. I hope there's layers. I hope there's things we're just not seeing. I'm hoping that just like the bloodline story, right? That had so many twists and turns and you didn't know where it was going, and that's what made it exciting. And I want the same thing for the ladies in the locker room. I want them to have some great storylines on all levels, from the top to the bottom. And I want them to have great matches, right? So I'm excited. I love how she returned, Liv acting her butt off, like, no, like, no, it's not me, like, whatever. And then us all thinking she's going to attack Liv, and she doesn't. And she attacks Naomi. And so obviously people are like, oh, I told you it was Naomi. And I'm like, hold on, pump your brakes. I was like, this could be to throw you off for all we know. So I don't know who it is, obviously. I want it to be Bianca. I want her to be like the mastermind behind all this.
Right.
She was very schemy, even with like the Rhea and Io situation. So like, I feel like there could be layers to things here. And if this gives Naomi and Jade a good story and match, a non-title good story and match, that's the best thing that could come out of this for me, because Naomi has always talked about wanting a story she can really sink her teeth into. Right. And she's never had that since she's been in WWE. It looks like she's finally kind of getting that. So I'm excited to see what happens. But Jade's return, that was done perfectly. No really words were said. I think tonight, Bianca tweeted today that, hopefully she'll get some answers tonight. So I think we'll get the next chapter, if you will, in this story to kind of see what direction they're going. But I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. And I hope maybe it is Naomi, right? Like, that's the thing, is everybody, I think a lot of people are like myself, like, oh, well, maybe it is Naomi. Maybe we don't see her for a while, and all of a sudden she comes back and she's wearing like jet black lipstick, complete opposite of Feeling the Glow, right? Like, I always wanted her to be part of the bloodline storyline a little bit and have her own little Naomi penitentiary, right? The Uso, like, wanted her with maybe like almost like how Micha's character was with the bandana over her face. Like, I always thought that could have been pretty badass for Naomi. But a great way to start Elimination Chamber, and then the way it ended with John Cena and Travis Scott and The Rock and Cody Rhodes. Like, I mean, you walk away from that, or I don't know if anybody was sitting down at the end of Elimination Chamber, but that's one of those things where you're like, it's a chef's kiss. Even if you thought it could have happened, that's one of those things that you're not going to believe it until you see it. John Cena, hustle, loyalty, and respect. Now with lazy, disloyal, disrespectful. I mean, that's why we get into it, right, Steph? I mean, Sherlock Steph, sometimes even if after the case is unveiled, you just sit there and you go, that's why I'm here. I'm here. Count me in.
Well, that's the thing. So I actually forgotten that I posted it, but I went and posted it, or someone liked it. Someone likes your post that you posted like weeks or months ago, and you're like, oh yeah. And so someone liked it, and I was like, what is this? And I had actually posted, John Cena had posted a picture of, oh my gosh, not Thundercats. Oh my God, Conan, but the barbarian guy.
Okay, yeah.
And he's drinking with the bad guy, like he's like having a drink with the bad. And I was like, there's no way John Cena's turning heel his last run, right? I'm like, because it really is seeming like between that promo after Royal Rumble,
right,
and where he barely talked to anyone, and he was like dead serious, and he was like, it's best for business and all these things. And I'm like, between that and him posting these, like, he's having drinks with the enemy type meme, and so I had posted on Twitter, I was like, there's no way that he's turning heel, right? I'm like, because this is that would be, there's no way, because it's been 30 plus years he's been a face, and I'm like, there's no way. And so I mean, I never posted the video, I just realized, of my reaction. But I don't know, I wasn't breathing, like I was like, I was just sitting, I'm like, no way. And I'm like in a hotel because we're visiting my grandfather, and I'm like trying to keep it down because I don't want but I like screamed at some point. Like I was like, "No, Father!" Like I'm just like in shock. And my mom's like, "Stephanie," like, and I'm like, "What?" She's like, "You're so loud." I was like, "Sorry." I'm like, "Mom, John Cena went." So you mentioned moms, by the way. I'm pivoting
Mhm.
here. My mom is the one that got me into wrestling. I was 6 years
Wow.
old,
Okay.
and she loved the Undertaker. And so she'd always watch for the Undertaker, and I like eventually got curious, and I'm like, "What are you watching? Like, what is this?" Um, and then I started seeing like the tag teams, like Bubba Ray and Devon and LOD, which was my favorite. I love Legion of Doom; it's my favorite tag team ever. And the Hardy Boys, of course. And like I saw all these and I started falling in love with the tag team matches. And so she's the one that actually got me into it. So shout out to mom, because you're the one
There
that
you
got me
go.
into wrestling back at
Mhm.
6 years old. And then she kind of fell off and I stuck with it. So um so shout out to her. But it's just one of those things where I don't know, actually I don't know where I was going with this, but I don't know. She got me into it. She got me into the stories. I loved Undertaker and Kane back then. I love a story.
Right.
And I feel like that's where this is going. John Cena, I don't know. Man.
He's
I
not
was
gonna
in
shave his
shock.
head, is he? Is he gonna shave his head? That's the next thing
I
I'm seeing on social media.
Someone said he's gonna come out in black jorts. I'm like, stop it.
Yeah,
Not
he
the
needs to
black
just
jorts.
become. I want to. Maybe he needs to be some
Dude,
weird. Like he needs to wear like a suit with no sleeves, or he needs to be really
what if
antithesis
he
of
wears
what
a
John Cena's all
what
about.
if he wears a suit up top and jorts on the bottom, like black jorts?
It can't
And
be
like
endearing at all. It can't be endearing at all. It's got.
I
I don't even
know.
want to like. He can't go back to the doctor of thugonomics because people are gonna like that. He needs to be very plain.
Correct.
Maybe staying with the jorts, maybe like right. That's the thing about WWE. As much as the swerve, sometimes I think we overthink it, right? Because we overanalyze it so much, and sometimes the easy answer, just like we saw with John Cena, Rock and Cody, they're fighting each other, and then the trailer behind him had John Cena. Like it was this
Yeah.
house of loyalty and respect of
It's
staring us right in
very
the face.
subtle. Very subtle. And yeah, maybe sticks to the jorts and wears like a plain t-shirt. Like someone said that his towel should say "give up" on them. I'm like, stop it, guys.
Give up. My time. It's my time, not your time on the
It's
front.
my time, not your time. I'm
I
like,
love it.
Jesus.
At Stephanie
Oh,
Hypes on all social media platforms. Follow her. She has some incredible content. WWE and just all of her opinions are just so much fun. Never a dull moment. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today at International Women's Day. Nice to finally talk to you face to face. We'll definitely keep in touch and we'll do this again sometime. Have a great weekend.
absolutely. And I'll be at WrestleMania. So anyone in Vegas, I'll see you there.
Holla at your girl. Thanks, Stephanie.
Bye.
Bye. Good stuff, man. She is amazing. Go check her out. Like the WWE is just taking over. It really has. And nobody knows what the heck is going to happen tonight. What's going to happen when Cody Rhodes finally responds? What's going to happen when we hear what happens with the ladies? I love it. I love it. A lot of good entertainment. That's the thing is we say this about sports too. It's an escape from reality. It's an escape from reality. There's so many different things that go on in our lives that it's a reality of the situation where we have to deal with it. But when we watch sports, when we watch things like wrestling, it's like it's an escape. You can take 2 or 3 hours and just forget about everything that's going right or wrong in your life, and you just kind of just do something different. I'm gonna text you the link right now, Tricia. Okay, I'm gonna copy this. Hold on, guys. I'm sending the link to Tricia. Can't wait for. We're going to miss Tricia, aren't we? I mean, we're going to miss her so much. She did such a great job here in the Tampa Bay area. And the fact that she won't be here, I mean, it's been a while. It's been a while since we had somebody other than her. And I know we've had some great people over the years. I've gotten the chance to, I remember when, who was it? Alex was there. Of course, Kelly Nash. She was great. V6. Just bear with me real quick, guys. Yeah, so we've had some great people. What was the other young lady's name? She went to Houston after Margot, I think her last name was. We had some really great people. And that's the thing. Here in the Bay Area, we're so blessed to see so many different people come and unfortunately go, but they're just talented people. Some news in the hockey world: Mikko Rantanen and the Dallas Stars closing in on an extension, 8 years, $12 million AAV. That would get the deal done. That's the only way that these teams are going. And I don't really understand how the Carolina Hurricanes would, like, why did they think that this was going to work without knowing he was going to sign? Did they really feel like they could just do this and yeah, we'll figure it out when we figure it out? Like, no, you have to be sure of these things before you make a deal for this guy and send Drury and Natchez. And I don't know, it's just poor planning from the Carolina Hurricanes. We heard some news from Chris Godwin today and the interest about Chris Godwin. We're going to get into that a little bit later in about 115, 120 about Chris Godwin, about the Tampa Bay Lightning, everything going on there. But let's bring in a favorite of everybody here in the Tampa Bay area. We will certainly miss her when she is not around Tropicana Field. Well, heck, nobody's going to be around Tropicana Field this year, but it's the one and only Tricia Whitaker. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Well, hello, Jay. I'm good. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fantastic. Thank you for accommodating us today. International Women's Day tomorrow. You know how important it is to me to be able to highlight and to celebrate the females that we have in our industry and outside the industry. My mom's coming on at 1:00 today, even though she doesn't have anything to do with sports other than she used to pitch wiffle ball in the backyard. But thank you for all that you have done, and we will certainly miss you. But yeah, I mean, just take us through kind of that. It's kind of the next step of life, right? I mean, you had such a great time here in the Tampa Bay area, but now it seems like this is kind of the next step in your career.
It is the next step. And I loved the Rays. Obviously, I had way too much fun when it just shouldn't even have been considered work half the time. We did so many cool shows, so many cool all access shows, got to know the players at a really deep level. But it was just time to move on for me. And I have a lot of priorities in life right now that I could not put at the forefront of my life when I was doing a 162 game schedule. I mean, I didn't do 162 games all the time, but I did usually around like 120, 110,
a lot.
Sometimes more, and plus an Apple TV schedule of 25. Plus I teach at Indiana University in the off season. So it just got to the point where I was like, I love my job, but there was obviously a lot of uncertainty surrounding the Rays going into this offseason. There's still a lot of uncertainty around it. And I just felt like this was the right time to kind of take a different step in life and to do Apple every single Friday. When I was with the Valley, there were some conversations about how often I would be gone when I first took this Apple job, and that wasn't always the most pleasant thing. And so it just is easier for me to be able to do it every Friday and to have more flexibility to do other things too. But loved the Rays, loved the team. Kevin Cash, the players were amazing.
And it also opens you up for more opportunities to sing the national anthem because of the beautiful voice of yours that you have. But yes, I mean, and you mentioned those all access stories, and that's one thing that I think people are going to miss the most because you have such an abundance of knowledge and you were so great to everybody that you dealt with, but also the way that you were able to relate to. I just remember the stories with Brandon, Lau and his wife and all that they dealt with. And obviously we dealt with something here in my house very similar to that. But just all those types of conversations, Tricia, like what was that like? Because I used to see little girls going up to you all the time. The story with, what was her name? Chloe with Brett Phillips. Oh my gosh. Like, I mean, as much as, you're a big sports fan, big Indiana fan, everybody loves what you've done as a professional, but as a human being, to be able to impact so many people's lives. I mean, what does that mean to you when you come across and cross paths with the Chloe and you see people? And I've seen signs at Tropicana Field of like, we're here to see Tricia Whitaker. Like, I know, knowing that the person that you are, like, that doesn't fall on deaf ears. That means something to you.
It means a lot. Oh my gosh, it means everything. The Chloe story is still my favorite story of my entire career. Like, I mean, and I've covered the NFL, the NBA, college basketball, college football, racing. The Chloe story will always be my favorite moment, my favorite day in sports in general, because that story transcended the game. And it was just so encouraging to everybody. Like, it was just a serendipitous thing too. I'm not a big believer in coincidence, and just everything that went into that moment was just incredible. And you mentioned the all access shows. Those are the things that make your heart beat as a reporter, as a team reporter, right? I love the game of baseball, but my passion was never talking about like ERA. It was never talking about like a guy's curveball. It was never talking about the velo that a guy's throwing his fastball with today. It was never talking about, that type of stuff. The stuff that I really enjoyed doing was the stuff like the Brandon Lau, Madison Lau story, was sitting down with Randy Arozarena and talking about how he defected from Cuba, sitting down with Yandy Diaz and getting his story. Those are the things that I love to do. And Jay, I'll be honest, with regional sports networks right now, the scene is not great, right? And budgets are being affected. And there was a lot less creative liberties, creative control. A lot of the ideas that I had were shot down constantly on a regular basis. And it frustrated me to the point where I was like, you know what? I know that there is an appetite out there for creative stories. And it's frustrating when you can't tell those stories because of one thing or another, or because you should stick to baseball. And so that was definitely a frustrating thing for me, right? Not being able to tell some of the stories that I wanted to tell. The stories we did tell were wonderful. But there were so many more stories that I wish I could have told. And the scene for regional sports networks right now is really, really frustrating for reporters specifically, because that was my joy. You saw those shows. You know me. You saw how much not just I lit up, but how much it affected and impacted people, right?
It did.
We cheer for people. We don't cheer necessarily. Of course, it's fun to go to the ballpark and watch Tyler Glass now, throw the baseball, right? But the majority of the time, you cheer for people.
Right.
And I took that very seriously about my job. And the second I felt that was somewhat being taken away was the second that I was like, that's not what I'm here for. So, that was my joy, and I loved telling those stories. And I'm so glad that you liked them. And I know that there were a lot of people there who loved those stories too.
Yeah, I love them, and you left an indelible impact on our community. I've told you that before when the announcement came out. I was at iHeart for 10 years before they let me go in November, and as much as I miss the people and I miss kind of the routine, and I love being on the air, I'd like to be able to do my thing. I like being able to do shows like this. I like to be able to go to the Rowdies and like to be, and not worried about the ratings say this. Well, this is the Jay Recher podcast, and I'm going to do what I want to do because I want to grow the game. I want to grow my podcast. I want to highlight things that don't get highlighted. I want to have high school baseball coaches on. I want to talk about stories that maybe isn't topic A on the radio. So I'm right here with you on that. I wanted to ask you just kind of, you put it out on social. This isn't a private thing, but hanging out with Lauren Shahadi and Meredith Marakovitz, two of the just incredible talents in the entire industry. Lauren does such a great job with MLB Network, and Meredith, with my family living in New York and diehard Yankee fans, she has been doing such an incredible job over the years. And there's the one thing I like about baseball is that I always say it's the heartbeat of America. It's consistent. It's every day, whether you win 10-0 or lose 10-0, you get up the next day and you go to work. You get up the next day and you play again. Right. And I think that consistency, I feel like, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but your friendship seems very consistent. And it seems just whenever you guys meet up and you guys post a picture, you're all smiling and going crazy. We had the comment a couple of years ago with Taylor Tannenbaum with the jean jacket at the restaurant that went on fire. But it just seems like, your friends and some of the really strong and talented women in our industry, they're all in that same wavelength. There's no jealousy or cattiness amongst those kind of elite performers in the crowd.
Not these girls, not me and Meredith and Lauren. I mean, you're going to find your jealousy, your cattiness. You're going to find some people who just are not good people.
Right.
And when you find good people, you got to hold on to them as tightly as you can. Lauren Shahadi and Meredith Marakovitz have just been two of not only my closest supporters in the industry, but just closest friends in general. And when you find those people in the industry, it's rare, right? It's rare to find people who have good intention. You know how this industry is. You think somebody has good intentions, and then you just realize that they are terrible people, and you can't trust certain people. So when you find people like Lauren and Meredith, it's just, we have a friendship that's going to go forever. I mean, I could get out of baseball tomorrow and like, I'd still be close friends with those two. And Lauren is like, obviously full of like so much wisdom because she's been doing this for so long and she worked her way up. So she speaks, and Meredith speaks to my class every single semester. And like Lauren started at North Dakota at a local news station. I started in Green Bay, Wisconsin at a local news station. And like, that just speaks volumes to me that she's still willing to spend so much time with my students and impart her wisdom when she now is like at the top of her game and has 900 things going on. Meredith as well. I mean, Meredith is like a face for the Yankees, right?
She is.
And
100%.
I don't think she's appreciated the way that she should be, right? Like she has been there, done that, right? And she is one of the most recognizable people when you're walking around New York. We can't walk around New York with her without being stopped 900 times. She's so good at what she does. She's seen a lot. And, you know, working in that market's not easy. Working for the Yankees is not easy.
She's got some thick skin, man.
She's got thick skin. She gets her shit done and she does it well. And it's just like so impressive. And Lauren's the same way. I love watching her during the NCAA tournament too. And MLB Central on MLB Network's the best show I think on MLB Network and in sports in general. It's just so good. So both of those women are just like salt of the earth humans. And when you find those people, those are your people.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like you look at, I really like Inside the NBA with Ernie Johnson and those guys, and then you look at MLB Central. It's kind of crazy. Like when you look at certain shows around sports, the personality-driven ones, when they're having fun and enjoying and celebrating the game instead of talking smack about the players, or right, like it's not just, like personality-driven in the fact where it's like me. It's like it's having fun, it's celebrating, it's laughing. We go to sports as an escape from reality. You can have trouble at work or at home, but if you want to go watch a game, like you're not trying to deal with all the BS, and that's what I love. Real quick, before we end with the baseball question, I want to ask you about Indiana football. You took so much pride, and you know my buddy Ian Beckles, Indiana grad, he was so happy. He actually went up to the game against Michigan. What was that like to be able to see your team do their thing? Because I know that's such a badge of honor for you.
Oh, hell yeah, it is. Let me tell you something, Jay. When I was a student, I covered up the football team when they were 1-11. That was like one of my first, first assignments as a student was to cover the IU football team, and they went 1-11. So to see this happen, like IU football has always been like a joke. Let's be honest. Like they just like, there have been random seasons where they were okay, but otherwise it was just like they were terrible. Right. And to see what they did this year, it was just like people were like crying because you're like, oh my God, we have something to cheer for. And it's not just sports, you know, like the economy around Bloomington, where I'm from, where I teach, it just boomed. And it just brought people together. And it was just, it was the best. And I just hope that, you know, their head coach, Kurt Cignetti, can follow up next year. I think next year is the most important year, in my opinion. It's like, okay, last year wasn't a fluke. You don't win 11 games and it be a fluke. You don't, right? Like they were very good, but you want to see them do that again next year. So, oh my gosh, I could go on forever. I mean,
give me one player and one MLB team that you're most excited to see this year.
Ooh, that's a really good question. I mean, this is so, I totally get how like, this is probably everybody's answer. But I'm really excited for Juan Soto and the Mets. Like, I'm just really excited. And then watching Siri with them too. Obviously, you know, I love Jose Siri. Right. So I'm excited to see what that team can do with him on it. I think I'm a sucker also for the Padres just because they have so many good pieces. And I want to see them do well. That's a really passionate fan base. It's one of my favorite stadiums. So those would be my two picks, I think. Obviously, I'm always intrigued to see what the Yankees will do and stuff, but those would be my two picks for sure.
Yeah, I think when you look at a guy like Junior Caminero too, right? I mean,
hell yeah.
It's amazing. And just real quick, what did you see from him last year that made it so impressive that like, wow, this guy is not just like a flash in the pan. This isn't just a name. Like this is like a dude he could be on his way to being one of the best players in the game.
100%. And he has that drive, at least from what I saw, right? I'm not a coach. I'm not in there every single day. But from what I saw, not only does he have the drive, but like he's a good teammate, like at least from looking, surface level. He's supportive. He plays the game with passion. And gosh, he can hit that. I mean, the power he has, right? And I think I remember talking to Chad Matola about it, and he was just like, yeah, he was like, I had never seen in Toronto one year, he was taking BP. It was like a month after his MLB debut or a few weeks or whatever. And he hit one like to the top level at Rogers Center. And the fans and everybody who were there, they gave him like a standing ovation. And Chad Matola was like, I've never seen that before. Like, it was just like, the way he hits the baseball is so impressive. And I love his passion for the game. He's a very emotional player. You've seen, when, he won in the Dominican during Winter League this offseason. And then last year when he met Manny Machado on the field, and I interviewed him before the game. And I'm like, hey, you're going to be on the field with like your childhood idol. Tears just start streaming down his face. And he's just like, I just can't believe this. He was like, if you would have told 10-year-old me this, I would have been like, that's insane. And then he exchanged jerseys with Machado after the game. And I love the respect he has for the game and for those that came before him and the passion that he still has now. It's great.
And everybody is, and this is what Sean's saying, I'm having Tricia withdrawals already. She is the best.
Sean.
David Terry, when Tricia sat down, I had dinner with G-Man.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that was so fun.
That was great.
So fun. G-Man made me laugh throughout that entire interview. That was one of my favorite All Access shows we ever did. One of my other favorite ones was Go-Karts with Jose Siri. And we also played Pop-A-Shot.
Yeah.
I beat him.
Yeah, of course you did.
He was so mad. He made us do it again. And he told me that I had cheated. And I was like, Siri, I did not cheat. Look at the scoreboard. Everybody else saw I beat you. He goes, no, you cheated. We have to do it again. So we did it again for the episode. The only thing he beat me on was putt, but I beat him in go-karts and Pop-A-Shot, and he won't admit it to this day.
Well, we know you being the Indiana grad. I mean, you had a leg up on him. Sorry, Siri.
Okay.
No lies told here. Tricia, thank you so much for your time today. Again, you will be missed in a huge way. I can't thank you enough for your friendship, and you're just such an incredible colleague and such a great for the two little girls that live in this house with me. They look up to you, and those kind of things mean the world. My favorite quote is Jackie Robinson. It's not about what your life, it's how your life impacts others. And you're you're an impact player. You're an impactful person. You could see it with the people. I'll never forget Willie Adames, first time the Rays played the Brewers, and him coming over to you, and you couldn't wipe the smile off that guy's face. And it was just, I always feel like that's so indicative of what a person's character is like, is how other people like talk about them and treat them. And you watch that from a distance, and it may not have anything to do with me, right? But I look at it and go, this is the perception I have of this person. And it's real because I see other people have that too. DJ, your longtime photog, who I see all the time at Amalie Arena. I saw him the other day. So when I see him again, I'm going to definitely tell him that I spoke to you.
I love that, man. Well, Jay, let me say thank you to you too, because you are there's a lot of men who say they're supportive of women in the industry outwardly, but they are not actually. They don't walk the walk. They do not talk the talk. And it's cool for them to say they're supportive, but they're not supportive. There's a lot of people that I have worked with that I will never talk about that publicly, but they are not supportive of women, no matter how much they say. You are, and you not only talk the talk, but you walk the walk. And I've always appreciated that about you. For those 6 years I was in Tampa, I always felt supported by you. And that's rare. So thank you. You are a gem.
Thank you. Thank you. So enjoy the rest of your weekend and travel the world. Give my love to everybody involved. Say hi to your pup in the background.
Well,
it's so great. Thank you again, Tricia. Talk soon.
See ya.
All right. Bye. Tricia Whitaker. I mean, you want to talk about salt of the earth type of people. That's her. Like, that's her. And I feel great having her on the show and to be able to kind of open that. Yeah, we knew so much about her, right? Like, you got to learn about Tricia because of, everything that was going on with the Rays. And she was so, out front when it comes to the all access things. Like, man, incredible. So great to be able to chat with her. Oh, man, that was powerful. It really was. Let's get to some of the breaking news that we're hearing in the National Hockey League. Luke Shen going from the Pittsburgh Penguins to the Winnipeg Jets. Luke Schenn got traded from the Nashville Predators to the Pittsburgh Penguins a couple of days ago. Had a feeling that it wasn't going to be, he wasn't going to stay there because Pittsburgh is going to be on the outside looking in. Luke Schenn, at this point of his career, wants to go to a contender. And we're still waiting on seeing what the deal is when it comes to Mikko Rantanen. Is he going to get flipped? I'm waiting from everything from Elliot Friedman. It is happening. Toronto and Philadelphia intensifying talks on Scott Lawton, a good bottom six guy for them. Second rounder and a fourth rounder to the Penguins from the Jets to get Luke Schenn. And then, Mikko and the Dallas Stars closing in on a deal. So it is flying. It is fast and furious right now. We'll see if the Tampa Bay Lightning make a move or they stand pat. Because I know something that we heard during the broadcast yesterday was it was Emily Kaplan from ESPN talking about, hey, the Lightning may not be done. It's going to have to be a, money in, money out type of move. We'll see. Jay, what are your thoughts about Brad Marchand being traded? Did it happen? I don't think it's going to happen. It might. I don't see anything from Brad Marchand yet. From here's the thing with Brad Marchand. When you trade for a guy like that, you're trading at this point of his career, you're trading more for the leadership and the little spurts of greatness. He's not going to be as consistent as he once was. We've seen that. We've seen it with Boston. We saw it in the Four Nations face-off with Team Canada. He's not the same Brad Marchand, who a couple years ago was playing on a line with Sidney Crosby and Patrice Bergeron. He's not the same guy, but he's a leader. He's still a pest, and he can still score big goals. He's got that knack. So if you're a team that can go out and get a Brad Marchand and not rely on him to be maybe a first-line player, maybe he's a middle six guy, maybe a third-line guy, and obviously it comes down to the price. What are you gonna trade for him, right? Because you're not trading for Brad Marchand of 3, 4, 5 years ago. You're trading for this version of it. And I don't know if I'm really going out there and trading a bunch for a guy that's clearly on the downslope of his career. One trade I will make is what Buck's Basement is bringing up, the Trey Hendrickson trade, a no-brainer. Tampa needs to act on it because we're not the only team in the division that needs pass rush help. Yeah, but at the end of the day, the Bucks didn't make a reactionary move last year when Matthew Judon was acquired by the Falcons from the New England Patriots. So I think they should go get Trey Hendrickson. We've been saying here on the Jay Recher podcast for a long time. I said this from the beginning of the offseason here. The Bucks need to make a splash move to bring in a pass rusher. I said Max Crosby, Myles Garrett. I don't care who it is, but I want one of those guys, Trey Hendrickson. I don't want a Khalil Mack. And I know Scott Reynolds joined us the other day from Pewter Report, and he kind of made a convincing argument when it came to Khalil Mack. I know Joey Bosa's out there now as a free agent option after getting released. But I want a guy that's kind of in his prime. I want a guy that's a surefire top 10 pass rusher right now. And I think Trey Hendrickson is that guy. He's already had familiarity playing in this division, playing for the New Orleans Saints. I think it makes sense. It makes sense. And if it's only going to cost you, right, a third round pick, it'll be a late second round for the Bucks. But now with the leverage being out there, what if the Bucks go out and say, hey, we'll give you a third round pick? Nobody else offers that much, but you're sending a third round pick in that direction. I think that'd be a smart move. And when you look at the cap hit, right, he's on the hook for $18.6 million next year. And then he's an unrestricted free agent. Do you bring him in and then possibly find a way to sign him to an extension? Attach some dead cap money there? I mean, if anybody's going to be able to figure it out, it's Mike Greenberg and it's Jason Light and that whole crew over there. I have faith that if they do make that deal for Trey Hendrickson, that they would make it work. Stephanie says, crazy to think Rantanen signed with Dallas 12 times 8, where he could have had that with the Avs. But yeah, the difference there, though, no state income tax there in Texas like we have here in Florida. So a little bit of a different story, I think, because I'm pretty sure that they do have a state income tax in Colorado. But you never know how those negotiations go, right? Some things we think are true when it comes to, all right, this is what the deal is, this is how many years. Sometimes it's speculation. Sometimes they're a couple million off. We've had that conversation with Ian Beckles years ago with, I forgot what running back it was for the Bucks, but the newspapers and everybody in the media was saying it was one thing, and then Ian talked to him, and the guy was like, "No, that's not it. That's only part of the story. That doesn't including, it doesn't include guaranteed money. It doesn't include, right? It was all backloaded, and they were able to get out of it. So you just don't know all the logistics until the information comes out. So, especially when you look at a situation like what we saw with, look at the deal recently with Gordon Bjorkstrand. Thought it was just Mikey Asamont, and we didn't know anything until a little bit later on about, another prospect going in the deal, about, some extra draft picks that were attached to it. We didn't know right away about the money that was being saved, right? Who was going to take on some of that deal? It was 50% held by Seattle, another 25% Detroit, and you brought them into the mix. So we'll see. We'll see. But I can't wait because the trade deadline is awesome, and it's been a very active. I feel like out of all the trade deadlines we've seen the last couple of years, this NHL trade deadline has been one of the more active ones we've seen in sports. The deadline is at 3:00 today. If the Lightning do make a move, we'll get with our guy Eric Erlinson. We'll probably hop on live and do something here. But as of now, we're celebrating women. It's International Women's Day, and listen, it's tomorrow. But we're celebrating today. So a big thank you already to Stephanie Hypes and Tricia Whitaker joining us. All right, let's do this. Let's get the questions in now. My mom, Sue Recher, is going to join us at 1:00. She's going to hop on in 4 minutes. If you have any questions for my mom about why I am the way I am, get those questions in right now. If you're on Twitter, if you're on YouTube, you're on Facebook, my mom is going to join us in 3 minutes. So Sue Recher joining the program, my mom, Mama Dukes. If you want to ask her any questions about me, like a David Terry, I like that one, David. Get those questions in now. Questions and comments, put them at the bottom, and we'll see if, come on with this. Don't be like that, Benny. We're deleting that comment, buddy. Let's have some respect, okay, for my mom. So yeah, get those questions in from my mom. She joins us momentarily. Once again, we mentioned this before. WWE announces Memorial Day weekend takeover in Tampa, May 24th to the 27th. I'll be there as well. And after we have the discussion with my mom, we will talk a little bit more about the situation with Chris Godwin and the possibility that he will not be with the Buccaneers next year. And that would just be awful. How much money will it cost to keep him in the Tampa Bay area? We'll go over that and a couple other things here in a little bit. Brandon Tanev is going from the Seattle Kraken to the Winnipeg Jets, so not far for him. That was another guy I know people were wondering if he was going to be headed to a team like Toronto. Bottom six guy, kind of a pain in the ass. You need those type of players. And you saw that last night with Yanni Gourde. His impact was felt in that first game. It only took him like a period to get everything together. Same thing with Oliver Bjorkstrand. He ends up scoring the game winner. That's what's great about sports. Everything going in so many different directions. And yeah, there you go. It's a beautiful thing. After acquiring Luke Shen, don't expect a reunion of Winnipeg with Jets and brother Braden from the Blues. Will happen. We'll keep an eye on that. What happens to Braden Shen? Is he going to go somewhere as well? All right, so my mom's going to join us in about 60 seconds. If you have any questions about, about me, you want to ask my mom, now is the perfect time to do so. So get those questions at the bottom of the screen. Scott Lawton to Toronto from Philadelphia for Nikita Grebenkin and a first-round pick. So I'm sure by the time 3:00 rolls around, we'll hear more and more and more deals. And you never know. Maybe the Tampa Bay Lightning will be involved. I hope they are. I hope they get one more piece, whether it's a forward or a defenseman. But yeah, you always want to be involved in the frenzy. And they've already made one big deal with bringing in Gord and bringing in a guy like Oliver Bjorkstrand. Mikey Asimont scored in his first goal. He scored in his first game with the Seattle Kraken. So good for Mikey Asimont. I know he wasn't everybody's favorite player, but he really busted his ass out there. So we got to show him some love and respect. Speaking of love and respect, we'll bring in my mama, Sue Recher. Hey, Mom, how are you?
Hi, Jay. Good. How are you?
I'm great. You're a guest on the Jay Recher podcast. How's that feel?
Well, I am happy to be here. It's about time I got invited.
I've only been on air for a little over 2 months. Oh, my gosh. So we're asking for questions for my mom. She's going to answer them to the best of her ability. And
I'll try.
We'll start out with this one, Ma. Can you answer this question?
Well, okay.
I have a great question for her. Who's your favorite son? This is from Ryan Recher.
Oh, my. Oh, that name sounds familiar. I don't have a favorite. I got the 2 greatest sons in the world.
Ryan, you knew that was going to happen. You knew she was going to say that. Ma, what did you think of me when I was young? When was the first sign? What was the first sign that you knew that I was like really into sports?
Probably when you were watching the Mets all the time and you were imitating all the players' batting stance.
Okay.
And you actually learned how to read from seeing their names on the screen. You would actually go up to the TV screen and point to their names, and you eventually put it together that was the name. I can read that. And you would always copy their stance. And from then on, it was just sports.
And it's pretty funny you say that, because now I watch, somebody was having this conversation with the other day about TV. I always really liked TV, right? I mean, I always watching TV at a young age?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And some people are like, oh, man, I don't need TV. I'm like, oh, man, I definitely do. What about wrestling? We had Stephanie Hypes on from the WWE before. What about wrestling? Because Dad wasn't into wrestling. None of my friends. I don't
really know how you got into it, but we were shocked really how much you were into it. So much that we ended up buying you tickets to WrestleMania for your 10th birthday.
I remember that.
Yeah. I mean, for me to go to a wrestling match like that, or whatever you want to call it, I did it for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. David Terry wants to know, did Jay always have 400 different pairs of shoes growing up?
No, he didn't. That's been the last couple of years, I would say.
It's pretty wild how that happened. I was never really into a bunch of different shoes or fashion like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, no.
I don't know why that became a thing. Benny wants to know, what was Jay's favorite cartoon growing up?
Oh, Thundercats.
Oh my God, I remember that with the sword. Thundercats. Yeah. Oh, and then He-Man and She-Ra was a good one too.
There was a period where you always called Dad He-Man and me She-Ra.
There you go.
Call us Mom and Dad.
Dolan, thank you for the kind words. Hello, Mama Recher. You raised a fine young man. We love that dude.
Thank you.
And also David Terry, Mama Recher should be very proud, Mom, for raising a soul to the earth kind of fella. I think of him as my little brother. Thank you very much, David.
I am very, very proud.
If you have any other questions or comments, feel free, everybody out there, to put them at the bottom of the screen. What about the rest of the Recher family when it comes to sports and seeing my sisters and my brother? Like, it really was a huge part of our life, going to different games and practices over the years, wasn't it?
Right. And like I said, it was from really the time you were born. The first 2 years of Jay's life, we lived with my parents, who were huge Met fans and Islander fans. So there was always a game on TV. And then when your siblings came along and you all participated in sports, so Dad and I and your grandparents always went to all the games. It's just always been a part of our life.
Jeff Taylor, Jay's mom, this is awesome. What do you remember about Jay's first home run? Well, I wasn't a home run hitter, but what do you remember? What are some of the moments that you remember? And we'll just go with baseball and hockey. If you had one moment from me playing baseball and one moment from me playing hockey, what would it be?
Oh, geez, Jay.
Putting you on the spot. It doesn't even have to be a game, but just like, it could be friends that we played with.
Yeah,
or families.
Well, I was just going to say that it's really just the camaraderie of it all. Mm-hmm. Like, your friends became part of our family. You know what I mean? Like, just from the neighborhood that you guys grew up in and I grew up in. It's just like a family here, and so through all the sports and everything, we just met wonderful people. We're still friends and family with people, and it's just been a wonderful experience.
Coach Pyle. Hey, Mrs. Recher, say hello
Hi,
to the
Coach
crew for me.
Pyle.
Coach Pyle in the house. Dolan wants to know where you're always in Islip. Central Islip. There's a big
Central
difference
Islip.
between
Central Islip, Long Island, New York.
You got that right, Dolan. But
Yep.
yeah, you bring up a good point of sports and the camaraderie of it. And what about some of the people along the way that really made an impact, you think, like kind of helping me out as a coach or as like, just a fellow parent?
Right. Well, first off, your dad, because
Mhm.
you just, I don't know, getting choked up. You just admire your dad so much and always have wanted to be like him. So you just, from day one with the sports with him, and then both your grandfathers were into sports. So you just always followed them. And then you just had great coaches throughout the years, teachers, and just great people from Central Islip High School.
Mhm.
And so it's just been a wonderful experience.
I want to ask you, because it is International Women's Day, I want to ask you about your mom, grandma, who even to this day is just so supportive, and she'll watch games, and she's a big Mets fan. I always joke around that she calls them by their first name, like she knows them personally. But just talk about like grandma and her role as not just the matriarch of the family, but like her love for sports and how you've seen that over the years.
Yeah, well, she's always, like I said, been a Met fan and stuff, and she just she watches the games, she tapes the games. She always tapes everything that you do. She always recorded your shows and everything like that. And even if she's out shopping for the day, she'll come home at night and still watch the game if it was on earlier in the day. And it's just a very important part of her life. She just enjoys it so much.
What and I always love too, she'd always say like, say hi to Ian or say hi to Ron.
Yes.
And it's been great what has it been like for you to kind of see me here in Tampa and work with so many, seemingly, and you got to meet guys like Eric Erlinson and Ron and Ian when you guys came down, but what was that like to be able to see some of the great people from afar that work down here in sports?
Oh, it's been awesome. Because we love coming down there and visiting you and stuff, and we're just so proud of you, and everybody that we meet that knows you have nothing but kind words to say about you. And it just makes us very proud that you're doing such a great job there, and that people, like you and admire you and are happy to hear what you have to say every day. So,
that's an important part of it, because if they didn't care, I'd be kind of screwed. And what is it like now? I know it's so happy to see, my nephew and your grandson Lawson back playing hockey, and be able to see, your nieces and nephews now playing sports. Like, what is I feel a lot of pride, and I love watching it. I mean, it's one thing to be able to watch your kids, but what is it like when you watch your grandkids?
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. It's like kind of watching you guys all over again. And that's what they say about being a grandparent. It's like, it's kind of watching, your kids all over again. You see your kids and your grandkids. So it's like we get to do it all over again. We go to all their games and everything like that. And it's great. We love it.
What about thank you, Stephanie. Jay is a salt of the earth human, treats everyone with respect, speaks ill of no one. Thank you, Stephanie. And I think that's a huge part of the whole thing. And people say a lot of, crappy things over the years, and they say things, they try to bait you into saying things or doing things. And we've seen terrible things on like the text line back at the radio station. And I always try to handle myself in a way that I always feel like my parents are watching. And I always represented the name on the back of the jersey. I always, that meant a lot to me. So that's just, the way I try to go about my business.
Right.
What's the next couple of months, next couple of weeks looking like for you and Dad, you big travelers?
Well, we'll be down in Tampa, Florida on March 19th.
Nice.
Coming down, and we can't wait to see some sunshine. It's been a little cold here. So we're ready. Yeah, that's it for right now.
And we're going to the Valspar Championship again. You've been there the last couple of years now, Ma. What have you really? Oh, somebody called. Somebody called right now. This has happened the last couple of times that people call in, so we're gonna remove. I'm telling you right now, my mom feels really bad. I'm just gonna have her answer this last question, then we're gonna let her go. Click back on the link. That's the one thing that StreamYard really needs to fix, is that when somebody gets a phone call, that it doesn't just kick them off the link. And it's happened a bunch of times. It happened yesterday. It happened to Dave Andrewchuk the other day. So This isn't on you, Mom. This is just something that StreamYard's got to fix. That if people are using their phone, there you go.
Oh my goodness, I got a spam call.
Oh yeah, see, it happens when people call. I don't know why.
I know. I learned that the other day when you got disconnected from somebody.
Yeah. So yeah, before I let you go, just tell us, your experience at the Valspar and how nice it is for people that have never been.
Oh yeah, I love it, and I'm not even into golf, but obviously you and Dad are very much. But I found it very interesting, and same thing. People there were so nice and everything like that, and it was really, even though it's a long day, it's really cool and it's really enjoyable. Yeah.
What did you enjoy more? Did you enjoy walking around more, or kind of setting up shop at one of the, like, because we always hang out at the eighth green.
Yeah.
Which do you like? What do you like? A
little bit of both. I remember the first year we went, I was extremely tired at the end of the day, and I got really sunburned really bad.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so it's kind of nice to do both, but believe me, I enjoy sitting a lot more, than walking around.
All right, Ma. Well, I love you, and I thank you for taking a couple of minutes for joining the show today. Sorry, Ryan, it's not her fault that the phone went out, Ryan, but we all know who your favorite is, and it's both of us. But I love you, Ma. Thank you for everything that you've done. Happy International Women's Day tomorrow, but we wanted to highlight the woman that brought me into this.
Thank you, Jay. I love you so much. Thank you to everybody that's watching, Jay.
Thank you very much. All right, Ma, I'll talk to you. I love you.
Love you too. Bye.
Bye. All right. Good stuff there. So that's what it's all about, man. It's what it's all about. And I hope sometimes when we do things like that, and there's something that we don't get a chance to do. And I had this discussion with Tricia Whitaker before, is that, like, when you have a podcast like this, you get to do whatever the hell you want, right? And it's not topic A, talking about the same old shit over and over and over again. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I want to do what I want to talk about. And I want to be able to take the time that I have now to be able to talk about the NFL in a way where I don't have to stop after 15 minutes, or I don't have to just talk about the same thing over and over again. Like, I want to do different things. And that is why I enjoy what I do. And I thank you all for the love and the support. All right, let's get into this situation with everything going on with our guy, Chris Godwin. So this was the tweet, and we'll bring it up here real quick because I want everybody to be able to see what's going on. I want to bring it up so you guys know. All right, here you go. This is the tweet that everybody has been, like, kind of bugging out about today. There we go. So Mike Giardi on X, per league sources, Chris Godwin will be incredibly sought after, assuming he gets to free agency. That's big. Assuming he gets to free agency. Patriots expected to be the driver there. It's going to cost more money than you would have thought. Think in excess of $25 million per, despite the season-ending injury. Now, I don't know. I don't know about the validity there. I don't know if that's a little bit of a smokescreen. I don't know if that's a little bit of optimism. I'm not taking anything away from, Mike Giardi's been around for a while. He's got 97,000 followers, a writer at the Boston Sports Journal. But to me, it seems like that's more of a wishful thinking more than anything else. What say you? Do you think this is something to really be weary about, something to be worried about if you're a Buccaneers fan? Are you afraid that he's going to leave Tampa to go to Boston for $28 million a year? I mean, if you're Boston, if you're New England, rather, is that what you really want to do? Do you really have a lot of faith in a wide receiver coming off of a season-ending injury that, is going to be your number one receiver for your young quarterback, Drake May? Like, don't you want a guy that you can kind of grow with a little bit? Like, I get it. You want a veteran guy. Maybe that'll help him out. But we saw the first time when Chris Godwin got banged up and he was gone for the year. It took a while for him to get back to where, because let's not forget, going into last season, it was, for years before that, it was, all right, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 1A. But last year, going into the season, I think we really were able to establish that Evans was wide receiver 1 and Godwin was wide receiver 2. Then the season started and it was like, all right, well, now Godwin may be on top. Like, that's a great problem to have when you're going back and forth like that. But when you sustain your second season-ending injury like Chris Godwin has, I find it hard to believe that there's going to be a lot of teams. There may be a couple, but I find it really hard to believe that there's going to be a lot of teams out there that are going to push this well over $25 million. I've always said that it's going to be 20 million. I think right around there. And if you go a little bit higher, 21, 22, I think that makes the most sense for me when it comes to Chris Godwin. Your dead cap hit is around 18 plus. You bump it up a couple of more. You know how to formulate those deals so it doesn't hurt you in the long run. You take care of him. You adjust that money, signing bonuses, dead cap money. Like, you know how this works. I don't need to explain it for the Buccaneers. But if you're Chris Godwin and you're coming off of that injury, you got a newborn, your wife loves it down here. I just think it makes too much sense for him to stay. All right, you may get a big deal thrown at you, but for what? What? Like, what is that going to give you? Okay, it'll give you financial stability, maybe a little bit more, but like, honestly, at the end of the day, is it going to be worth it when it comes to your career? I mean, you could live down in Tampa for the rest of your life. They're always going to take care of you. They're not going to ever treat you like some redheaded stepchild. They're never going to treat you like you're not one of theirs. And we've seen it with Mike Evans. He had the opportunity to kind of look around, right? We were wondering if Houston was going to make sense. We were wondering if Dallas was going to be a player, if Kansas City was going to be a factor. But I look at Chris Godwin, and you look at the opportunity maybe to go to Jacksonville with Liam Cohen, right? Maybe. And this was a David Velasquez. What's up, Dave? Do you think Liam will throw a big flow for CG? Maybe. Maybe that's the first big move. He wants to plant his flag in the grass there, going, this is the guy that I want. But if you're Liam Cohen, and that's the thing, you have to think about the risk. You have to think about the risk. If you're one of these other teams, if you're going to spend that much on a wide receiver and you don't know the medicals, Chris is still at One Buck Place and at the Avon Training Center getting healthier. I just think it makes too much sense for him to stay here, because if he doesn't hit the ground running next year, in the first year of that deal, people are going to call him a fraud. People are going to say that it was a waste of money, that he was a bust. If he starts slow with Tampa Bay, you know what the Bucs fans are going to say? You got time. You got time. Chill. We got Mike. We got Baker. We got Bucky. We got everybody else. We got J-Mac. We're good. And shout out to J-Mac, who fired off the Tesla coils last night at Amalie Arena. He has the ability to not rush back and feel like the whole world's on his shoulders. And don't tell me that has nothing to do with why Mike Evans has really done well down the stretch here in the last couple of years of his career, knowing that it's not just on him. This isn't, his first couple of years in the league when he's catching passes from the Glennons and the Fitzpatricks and the Winstons of the world. And if he didn't make a chance, and I know he had Vincent Jackson early in his career, rest in peace, our guy V-Jax, but towards the middle of that career when, he had Deshaun Jackson, but the consistency, Chris Godwin is consistent as hell. And he goes to those tough areas. And now he's playing back in the slot. A couple of years ago with Dave Canales, wasn't good. And his wife said as much. Liam Cohen comes in, really accentuates his strengths, puts him in a position to succeed. I just don't know if Chris wants to really be that guy that leaves a place like Tampa when they're going to pay him over $20 million in my heart of hearts. And they're going to treat him like a king for the rest of his career. Why wouldn't you want to just think about it? If you have the opportunity to have a career as similar to Mike, and here's the other part. It'd be one thing if there was a jealousy, and I give a lot of credit to the fan base, and I give a lot of credit to the local media for doing this too. As much as we can debate and go back and forth, like who's 1A, who's 1B, it's never been with malice, malicious content. It's never been like, oh, this guy's great, this guy sucks. It's never been like that. You see that sometimes in other sports. You have fans of this guy and fans of this guy, and like it's this way. I feel like if you're a Evans fan, you're a Godwin fan. You may think Mike is better, but you still love Chris. You may think Chris is better, or you may think Chris is better, but you love Mike, right? So that's the beautiful thing when it comes to this Buccaneers situation. I don't think there's any professional jealousy. I don't feel like one guy gets more of a look than the other, and they do better together. And if they can both get paid, and we know the salary cap is just going to keep continuing going up and up, like I find it would be weird if he left. Dave wants to know, you don't think Chris would stay home on the discount? Possibly, but I hate using that word hometown discount because at the end of the day, the majority of the time it is about the money. But it's about the money and it's about kind of the mental piece. It's about the wealth and the health, right? It's not just the wealth that you get when you're talking about finances, it's the quality of life. Think about it. If New England, and everybody thinks they'll be better because Mike Vrabel's there, but they still don't have a ton of talent. So you're telling me if you're Chris Godwin, you're going to go to a place, you're going to be cold. You're playing in the same division as the Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills, especially Buffalo. You're going to the AFC. It's a much tougher road back to the Super Bowl. Or you can stay in the division that you own with one of your best friends in nice weather that your family's used to with your newborn. Like, man, you'd have to really get blown away to go to a place like New England. I actually think Jacksonville is probably a little bit more of a concern to me because you're still in the warm weather, you're still on the East Coast, and you're playing for a guy like Liam Cohen who put you in a position to be probably the best wide receiver through the first 6-7 weeks last year. If there's any type of concern when it comes to Grizzard as the play caller, and you're like, man, I'm worried that it's going to be a little bit more like a Dave Canales fit rather than a Liam Cohen fit, then you can kind of see where Chris is coming from. Because the weather's still going to be nice. It's a good young quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, and I know he hasn't lived up to those lofty expectations, but if you're a player in the league, and I say this a lot, and I really hope that this kind of sticks with a lot of people out there. Players and coaches in professional sports always think that they have the answer to the unanswerable questions. Does that make sense? As much as we on the outside can look at a guy and go, that guy sucks. That guy's not good. That guy will never be good. I don't trust him. Why can't that guy realize that he's not a part of the solution? He's part of the problem. You don't have the ability to get to that level without having an ego and a confidence in yourself, even when other people are telling you that you're not as good as you think you are, or they don't think you're very good at all. So when you look at a guy like Baker Mayfield, there's a great example. Did anybody really think that Baker Mayfield would be the guy to do this the last couple of years? I don't know if anybody thought Baker Mayfield, after what he went through in Cleveland, in Carolina, in LA with the Rams, could join the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in year one and lead them to the playoffs. And then year two, lead them to the playoffs once again. And now be probably one of the best bargains when it comes to quarterback position in the entire NFL. Why did that happen? Why did that happen when people were mocking Baker Mayfield, mocking the Buccaneers? You went from Tom Brady to Baker Mayfield? Baker Mayfield's going at it with Kyle Trask. That's your quarterback matchup. These guys are going to stink. There were people on the radio station that saying that he was going to be a 4 or 5 win quarterback. I didn't want him. I wanted Jacoby Brissett because I wanted Kyle Trask to get an opportunity. But once they made that move to Baker, because you watch what he brings to the table, you watch that leadership, you watch his ability to make plays out of nothing. I remember my prediction, I believe, was 9-8. I said, there's enough pieces here. I love the warrior mentality that this guy has. But how come Baker didn't listen to everybody else? How come Baker didn't, in his own mind, go, wow, what a bust of a number 1 overall pick? Because it's that ego. It's that confidence that you have to have in yourself to be an elite athlete, to be a professional, that makes you successful. You almost see things before anybody else does. You have to. You have to have that belief, that optimism. So when you look at things happening or things not happening, or, all right, well, why would you go to a place like that? There's going to be players out there that think, hey, like a Chris Godwin or any other guys that want to go to Jacksonville saying, if I'm there with Trevor Lawrence, he'll be a different quarterback. Same thing with Liam Cohen. Liam Cohen has to go to a place like Jacksonville. And I know that the ownership has a lot to do with it. Rashad Khan is going to give you whatever you need to get, to get it done. But I'm sure Liam Cohen looks at a guy like Trevor Lawrence and goes, number 1 overall pick out of Clemson, all the tools in the world, a perennial winner in the high school and the college ranks. We saw the incredible comeback in the playoffs a couple of years ago. if I get my hands on that guy, I think I can get the best out of him. I took Chris Godwin from being just a kind of a extra piece in a Dave Canales offense and turned him into the best wide receiver in football. I turned a rushing attack that was 32nd in the league to top 5, top 10. So I'm sure he's looking at a guy like Trevor Lawrence going, man, I could do the same thing there. And that's why certain players, they're not going to look at Jacksonville and look at what has happened in the past and scare them away. Now, there are warning signs for certain people, and you look at certain situations and they go, I don't want to go there because of the coach or the general manager or some of the bad eggs, bad apples there. I don't think you see that with Jacksonville, especially now that Trent Baalke is gone. So when I look at the Chris Godwin situation, I'm more concerned about him going to Jacksonville than I am him going to New England. Some of the basis of the deal we're looking at are back for the hockey. Sounds like the basis of the return for Mikko Rantanen going from Carolina to Dallas will be Logan Stankoven and 2 first-round picks. So, Logan Stankoven, and here it is again right here. Here's the details. The Dallas Stars are going to get Mikko Rantanen, an 8-year extension in place. Logan Stankoven, a 2026 first-round pick, a 2027 first-round pick, and smaller pieces. And when you look at what Logan Stankoven, what a great name, right? It's one of the coolest names to see on the back of the jersey. But this is a kid at 22 years old. He was a second-round pick, 5'8", but man, this dude can play. Damn good player. And just getting a little bit better and better in the AHL. He had 57 points last year in 47 games. He scores 14 points in 24 games with the Dallas Stars. This is a guy that won gold in the World Juniors and the under-18s for Canada. He's just a winner. He is a winner. Not the biggest guy in the world, but he's a big part of this move for Carolina. So I look at the deal when I go and I look at the Carolina Hurricanes, and you traded Marty Necas and you traded Jack Drury to Colorado to bring in Rantanen. And now you trade Rantanen to bring in Logan Stankoven. So in essence, you traded Stankoven, you traded Drury and Necas for Stankoven. I don't know, man. It's just a weird. And again, when you look at the picks, and as the great 21st century philosopher J. Brisbaugh once said, F those picks. I don't know. I think Dallas is. I'm more concerned with the money that Dallas is going to spend rather than, I don't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. It's weird, man. Weird. But you know who that's good for? That's good for the Tampa Bay Lightning, because I don't look at any of these deals going, wow. Even the deal for Seth Jones. Seth Jones is a good player, but he's 31 years old. I don't think he's as good as he was, just even then. I don't know if Seth Jones ever reached has he ever been that guy? Right? I don't know if he's ever been, until he got to Chicago, the best defenseman on his team. He's 30. He'll be, he's born October 3rd, like our guy Tom Ponzo and my grandma. Good player, right? Seth Jones, but I guess, all-star 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. He's a good player. But has he ever been the best defenseman? 4th overall in 2013. Okay, maybe I'm being a little too harsh. But you made the All-Star team a bad team this year or 2 years ago. 4 years in a row, 17, 18, 19, and 20 as member of the Columbus Blue Jackets. All right. That was his best time, but you could even argue then, was he the best defenseman on the team? Zach Werenski. But we'll see. But none of these deals I look at, and I'm scared by them. I'm not scared. And looking at these teams in the Eastern Conference going, oh, wow, I can't believe this is happening. No, I think I'm good if I'm a Lightning fan. I just hope they make one more deal, because we are an hour and a half away from the end and the trade deadline ending at 3 p.m. Eastern today. Shout out to Lex Luger, the 2025 WWE Hall of Fame inductee, which is really cool. That's really cool to see. Triple H just put out Lex Luger has overcome challenges his whole career. Not only a champion in WCW, incredible WWE superstar, but he's overcome challenges in life that are truly inspirational, and now takes place as a member of the 2025 WWE Hall of Fame. Just saw an interview with him and Chris Van Vliet, who does a really, really good job with his wrestling interviews, and to be able to see him moving around. I mean, it looked like he was going to be a quadriplegic, and now he's actually moving around, working with Diamond Dallas Page, and that DDP yoga is no joke. So happy that there's people out there that are doing good and doing well and really making changes and impacts in other people's lives. We had that conversation just now with Tricia Whitaker. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild. Did you guys see what happened last night in the NBA game? And we'll talk a little NBA here before Alison Harbaugh joins us at 1:45. First, we'll start off with what happened in the game. Knicks and the Lakers, good game all the way around. Really, really terrible to see what happened to Jalen Brunson as he got hurt in overtime, rolled his ankle. LeBron, Luka, Lakers win that contest. We'll see what happens with Jalen Brunson going forward. Hopefully it's not too serious. But Stephen A. Smith was confronted courtside by LeBron James, and it seemed like LeBron was really pissed about what Stephen A. was saying when he was talking about his son. And listen, I don't know if Stephen A. was ever out of line when he's talking about Bronny, but you have to realize something if you're LeBron James. If you are fast-tracking your son who struggled in college to not only be a second-round pick, but also a guy that's playing in his first year, you have to realize that criticism comes as part of it's part of the territory. I don't know if it was unfair or undue criticism, but it's just the nature of the beast. When you're a public figure, you got to eat some of that shit. I know to a much smaller, and I'm talking about a much smaller extent, there's going to be people that hop into my DMs or people that are going to comment on my stuff and say that I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I got to deal with it. I can't sit there and bitch and moan and cry about it. If I'm going to be here on this show giving my opinion, there's going to be people out there that are going to tell me that I'm wrong and that I'm an idiot. Like, unfortunately, like, we wish everybody was loving and supportive, but that's just not the reality of the situation. You just got to roll with the punches. And especially if you're doing what LeBron did with his son, which has been a classic example of nepotism, whether you think it's right or it's wrong. Listen, if you're LeBron, you're 40, you're playing in the NBA, and you put blood, sweat, and tears into the game, and you get an opportunity to write your narrative of how your career is going to end, I don't know if many people out there wouldn't do the same thing. If you had the opportunity to give your kid a chance, you see it in the WWE with freaking Rey Mysterio and his son, Dominic Mysterio. This dude didn't have to do anything. He was right there on TV. Very little training. He learned on the job, busted his ass, and kept pushing and kept pushing. And now he's earned his right. He earned his right. But this happens all over the place. How many times do you see a kid fresh out of college? He has no kind of business acumen whatsoever, but he gets a job with the company because his dad's the owner, his dad's the CEO, just the way it goes. It's not a what you know world we live in. It's a who you know world. So I never really like, if that's the way that the Lakers and LeBron want to do it, if the Lakers want to placate to what LeBron wants to do and have Bronny on this team, then that's their prerogative, right? It sells tickets. People want to see it, whether they want to see him do well or do bad. That's fine, right? But on that other side of the coin, you have to understand, Mr. James, is that if you are going to put your son out there in situations where he is going to have the opportunity to get lambasted for poor play, you got to eat that. You have to eat that, because that not only becomes part of his legacy, but it also becomes part of your legacy as well. There was a game a couple months ago where y'all were playing Philadelphia, and they put him out there to try to guard Tyrese Maxey, and that was a huge mismatch. Huge. And J.J. Redick even said as such after the game that he did Bronny a huge disservice putting him out there. What are we doing, guys? What do you think is going to happen? You think people are just going to play nice and be like, all right, that's fine. He gets a pass. LeBron gets. That's not the way the world works. If you mess up and you're a public figure, you're not going to get a pass. There's going to be people out there that are going to point it out. There are people out there that are going to have vitriol. They're going to have malice in their intent. Just the way it goes. You have to deal with it. So I know Stephen A. went on First Take this morning, and he had the, I don't want to say he clapped back, because he was very calm and composed and measured in his response. And he said LeBron came to him not as a basketball player, but as a dad. I get that. You're going to defend your son. But I just also think it's naive of LeBron to think that this kind of thing isn't going to happen. Here's the other thing, LeBron. it's going to continue to happen because you can't silence everybody. I think it's a modern miracle that LeBron is still playing at this level at his age. But from very early on in his career, this dude spent $1 million a year on his body. His body is a temple. Good for you. I honestly wish I did the same thing because I don't feel that great right now, and I'm 39, to be completely transparent and honest with you. So you did the right thing. You've done a lot of great things. You're going to go down as one of the top 3 basketball players of all time, no doubt. But this whole situation with Bronny is going to leave you open to criticism for the rest of your life. Notice what I said there. Not the rest of your career, the rest of your life. You have to understand that. So I have no sympathy. I have no empathy whatsoever when it comes to Stephen A. Smith, when it comes to LeBron James, and when it comes to Bronny James. Another thing that I would like to point out is something I did not really love, is that what Draymond Green had to say about Karl Anthony Towns missing the game against Golden State because Jimmy Butler was in the building. Now, Towns was listed for personal reasons where the Warriors beat the Knicks 114-102 on Tuesday at Madison Square Garden. Okay. And he said that some would say he didn't play because Jimmy was in the building. Okay. Obviously, we know that there's beef between Butler and Towns. And Green is saying that when he talked to his dad, his pops is an incredible man, but they say Cat didn't play because Jimmy came into town. And, him and Jimmy had the infamous practice in Minnesota. Okay. Well, come to find out that Karl Anthony Towns told reporters he had been away from the team to be with his family after the death of a friend. And we know that Karl Anthony Towns has dealt with loss and tragedy, losing his mom to COVID. This is not something new that this young man has had to deal with. My whole thing is that why don't we put this into perspective of, don't you know that they played already this year? Like, Karl Anthony Towns faced off with Jimmy Butler in the Heat already this season. So why the hell would he be scared of Jimmy Butler? Especially playing him at home. It'd be one thing if he was on the road. It'd be one thing if they were in Golden State. You're in hostile territory. People are yelling at you. People are throwing things at you, right? It'd be one thing if that was the case. But it wasn't the case. The Knicks are 40-22 on the season, okay, after that loss last night, okay? They lost to the Warriors at home, 114-102. Why? Oh, why does anybody think that he would be scared about playing Jimmy Butler? I'm trying to look up the exact date when they played. I have it right here. They played at Miami October 30th. At Miami October 30th. Guess who won that game? The Knicks. 116-107. Guess who was in the game? Jimmy Butler. So you're telling me that Karl Anthony Towns was scared of playing Jimmy Butler at home, yet already this season he went on the road to play Jimmy Butler in Miami. Like, what are we even talking about? This is what I don't get when it comes to these athletes, current athletes or former athletes that have the podcasts. If I said something like that, people would rake me over the coals. People would say that I don't deserve to have a podcast. Like, you can't, just because you're a professional athlete, whether a current or a former, you can't just say whatever you want and think that people should just follow it as gospel. That's not reality. We're not talking about situations of experience of playing in games. I can never, ever speak on that, nor would I ever pretend to know what that feels like, nor would I ever tell a player not to. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about experience as a player. We're talking about human being shit right here. We're talking about things about people being scared. It doesn't make sense. And they've played each other before. Ever since they left the Minnesota Timberwolves, they've been at each other before. Why would now be any different? That kind of shit is not good when it comes to transparency. That kind of thing is not good when you're talking about trying to build brands and build podcasts. Like, I have to be very careful with what I say, because if I say something, and I can tell you 50,000 things that are right, but if I tell you one thing and I swear that it's true and it's not, that could damage my credibility for the rest of my life, whether it's fair or not. That's the reality of the situation. We know people like that. You know people like that. You know people that would go on social media. You know people that are friends like that. They may not even necessarily be in the media, but you know people like that you don't believe them. You don't believe the things they say because one time or a couple times they said something that they thought was fact. This is real. This is truth. This is no cap, nothing. And it turned out to be false. Turned out to be a lie. I promise you, I am never going to tell you anything here on this podcast that I don't wholeheartedly believe. You may think that I'm wrong. You may think that I'm an idiot. You may think, I can't believe you think that. That's fine. But it's always going to be something that I truly believe. I'm not going to speculate on shit that I don't know about. I'm not going to talk shit just for the sake of talking shit. It's just not the way I operate. It's a reality-based podcast that you're going to get here with me. It's 5 days a week. Every single time that I crack this mic, I'm going to tell you what I think. Not because anybody led me to believe something else. Not because I'm forced to say something. And I didn't do that when I was at iHeart for 10 years either. And I know that's a very kind of a big misconception when it comes to what happens on the radio. Oh, somebody told you not to talk about that. Somebody told you not to say anything about that. That's never happened to me. I've never gotten into a situation where somebody said, don't say this, don't say that. They may have questioned it, but who am I if I'm going to be a person that is controlled? My opinions for sale. Nah, never going to happen. Not once. People talk about that with the Rays. Listen, I've had discussion with the Rays, and sometimes it's not pleasant. It's never personal. I've never made it personal, even with everything going on with Stu, everything going on with the team, never personal. But I've been very vocal with the lack of the adaptation when it comes to their offense, when it comes to a guy like Kevin Kiermaier not laying bunts down, when it comes to the disconnect between, I asked that. I'm not sure if you guys remember that. But when Stu Sternberg was on the call, one of the first people to ask a question was me. And you know what my question was? Hey, Stu, do you feel like there's a disconnect between you and the community, you and the fan base? Does that sound like somebody whose opinion is for sale? I just bit my tongue. Not here. Last year with the Lightning, when I was pretty verbal about Mikhail Sergachev's drop-off in defensive play, and this is before he got hurt. Remember that? The Lightning were like, hey, we're listening. And I go, okay. Does that change anything in how I go about my business? No. They're still great to me. I'm still great to them. It's not personal. But I went on the air and I let everybody know. Part of the reason why Ryan McDonough is not here is because Mikhail Sergachev is. Now, 12 months later, look who's here and look who's not. Not personal. Love Sergey. Did a lot of great things for the Lightning. But he had his defensive shortcomings. And a guy that never has defensive shortcomings was Ryan McDonough. So when you have these professional athletes, and I was very concerned when Draymond Green started that podcast because it was kind of for a completely different reason. I don't want that access to be denied to local media because these guys will say, well, I'm not going to talk about this because I'm going to talk about it on my own podcast. That's not good. It's not good. And you saw it last night. You saw it last night with the Nikita Kucherov benching. Whether you agree with John Cooper or not, Ed Encina, our guy, had every single right to ask John Cooper about what happened with Nikita Kucherov there. And I got to be honest, it's not an easy question to pose because there is a little bit awkwardness to it. There is a little bit of uncomfortability when it comes to a situation like that. But it had to be asked, and that's why Ed does what he does. That's why he's one of the leaders there for the Tampa Bay Lightning media. You got to ask the tough questions. It's not personal. But Ed asked John Cooper, why did Nikita Kucherov sit for that last 7 minutes and 20 seconds? He said he got hit with the puck, trying to make some changes when it came to the lines. And listen, it's just the way it worked out. Regardless of whether you believe it or whether you didn't believe it, we got an answer. That's all we can ask for. Here, it's important to have that relationship. And I know even some of my best friends are like, yeah, I don't know why they need to talk to the media. I don't know why they need to answer questions. Listen, this is part of the gig. Part of the reason why these sports and these games have grown so much is because of the relationship with the media and the players. It's something that needs to stay open. We need to continue these conversations. That's how the sports, the games, and our relationships are going to grow. Speaking of growing the game, this young lady has done such a great job in doing that. It's Alison Harbaugh joining us from the USF women's lacrosse team. Hey, Alison, how are you?
Hi, Jay. I'm great. Good to see you. Thanks for
Good to
having me.
Yeah, good to see you. Thank you so much. Love the shirt with the pink and for
Oh,
internet.
yeah.
I
Love
love
our breast
that.
cancer game. Yep.
Unbelievable. Yes. And I'm so glad you can join us. I don't know if Micah told you about the premise of the show today, but tomorrow is International Women's Day. And I
Yeah.
wanted to highlight different women on around the country. We've already had Stephanie Hypes, who works for the WWE. She joined us from Arizona. Tricia Whitaker chimed in from Indiana. My mom actually texted in from New
That's
York.
awesome.
And now you're here in the Tampa Bay area. And
Oh, man.
obviously, we'll get to kind of your sporting and athletic background, but what does it mean right now to be part of this inaugural team with USF? I got a chance to talk to Sophia a couple weeks ago and Coach McCord. Like you ladies, your entire group is making a profound impact. What does that mean to be a part of something that is just it's so new and so fresh and making a huge mark on the Tampa Bay area?
Yeah, oh my gosh, so many things. It's been a blast. I think like you said, just making a mark on the Tampa Bay area. Not many people here like even play lacrosse just at a youth level. So we've been trying to grow the game that way with having camps and getting little girls to come to our games. And it's been so fun to kind of step into that role model position, which I've never like maybe gotten to experience. I think it's really good for our team to kind of just grow into leaders and have kids look up to us. It's amazing it's a great time to be a woman in sport, honestly, right now. And just starting a new program, you kind of get to decide how you want the culture to be and leave your mark and just come in here. That was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. So we've been doing a great job. I think the coaches are such great leaders with that.
Yeah, it's a great point because I went to the game a couple weeks ago and I turned around and all of a sudden it was like click, clack, click, clack, all the cleats. And it was just so many of these little girls that were playing at halftime.
Yes.
You may not realize, and you sound like you do, but I think you'll realize it as you get older. You realize the impact that this team like you can never take away. There's only one first, and the
Yeah.
ability to be able to do that. Just take us through your thought process of coming here to South Florida. How much did the new, team and the new program have to do with it? What did the coaching staff have to do with it? What about the Tampa Bay area? Like, what goes into that decision?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I think you nailed it. Just all the aspects of it. First of all, the McCords were the main reason I kind of came out here for a visit to Tampa. I mean, I had known them from recruiting as a child, and Coach Paul would kind of have, he had the Ravens connection as well. So I knew that they were people of faith and they were going to build a great culture from the bottom up. So I knew that that was just going to be amazing to be a part of that kind of team and the coaching staff. And then when I got here, I was like blown away just by the Tampa Bay area, the weather, and just the effort that the athletic department was putting into the program, like a women's sport and a women's Olympic sport as that was just incredible. And I knew it was going to be done right from day one. So it was, I couldn't pass it up.
Allison, tell us about that being a USF athlete, because I've had, whether it was Jaden Reed on the basketball team, Josie Foreman on the softball team, Sophia, a couple weeks ago. There's just something different about USF where it's not just like, here's women's lacrosse, here's baseball, here's basketball, here's softball, here's this coach, here's this coach, here's this coach. Michael Kelly's at this game, but he's not at this game. Like, it just seems like everybody together, the green and gold, like everybody supports everybody. Do you feel that as a South Florida athlete?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely unique and not at every school. And I think that probably stems from Michael Kelly. He's always coming to our games, coming to practices just to hang out. It's a very family, like close-knit feel, which is incredible because it's such a large school. So I wasn't expecting that coming in, just having that tight-knit athlete community. And I think it's unique because it's a public university, but
Mhm.
it's also an AAU school. So I think that combination just helps a lot with the atmosphere and getting fans out. But yeah, I've definitely found a great community. We have a great FCA group and just great teammates. They bring good people here. I don't know if it's Michael Kelly, the coaches, just something's working. It's just such a great family vibe. I've been loving it. I'm so blessed.
It is awesome. 4-2 through your first 6 games there with the Bulls. I got a big matchup on Sunday at 1:00. It's the Bark at the Park and Salute to
Yeah.
Service. We're never short of having themed
All the
games with the
things.
South Florida. We love it. But
Always
just
a theme.
take us through the season so far, because I was there at the first game. I thought it was historic. I had chills. Just to be able
Yeah.
to see how many people were at that game, and you destroyed Kennesaw State. I felt bad for the goalie after a while. And then even looking at a game like Florida, right? I went over there, and to be able to watch, and obviously you come up on the wrong end, but you're hanging with a dang good team, and then you respond, lose a close one to Towson, but you come back with the win with St. Bonaventure. Like, what has the season been like so far? You're 6 games in. You got to feel pretty good about being 4-2.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. I think, like you said, it's not common that a first year program comes in and does this well right off the bat against programs who have been established for a very long time, like Florida and Towson. Those are both programs that are renowned, women's lacrosse. And so I think that's been a great thing, a great look for us. But I think at the same time, we know that we're not even playing at our best yet. I think that we're young, and I mean, most of our team hasn't even played in, a real season, a real game up until this year, even the sophomores, because of last year. So I think it's exciting. We're going to peak at the right time, and I think we're looking forward to conference play. So as well as we've been doing, I think there's a lot of hope for the future, and we kind of know that we're just getting started. So it's very exciting.
Growing up, and when I had my mom on a little while before, we were talking about how, like, family, your sports love, or your love of sports, really comes from your family. It came from my dad. It came from my grandfathers. It came from my grandma, who still watches every Mets game and talks to every player by their first name, even though she's never met them. Good swing, Pete. Like, she says stuff like that. Growing up in a sports family, like, it's what was that like to grow up around, obviously your dad, your uncle, everybody was just so darn competitive. And did you
Yeah.
ever get the feeling of, like, I don't want to do sports, or it just seemed like, hey, this is what the Harbaughs do. We're a sports family.
Oh man, honestly, it's just kind of what we do. I think
Yeah.
I was kind of thrown into it, but at the same time, it's like, like anything, you're surrounded by people who are at the top of their field, I guess you could say. And you're just so motivated to work hard, and being around my dad, my uncle, my grandpa. Like, I'll look over at the sidelines, and my grandpa and my dad laughing, and we're like, shoot. I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, chill. I've been seeing that site since I was 10 years old on the basketball court. Same thing. But no, they just, oh my gosh, they've pushed me in the best ways to. My dad, I was talking to him the other day. He was like, I saw your potential when you were a little girl, and he found the perfect balance of pushing me, but also not being too hard. And he's like the ultimate coach and friend for me. Like, after every game, I'm always like, did you see anything? What could I do better? And, and now the football's over, especially we were in preseason. He's like, how was practice? Send me the clips. I'm like, all right, I just calm down. No, but
I
it's
love that.
just such a blessing to have the resources and the support. They're endlessly proud of me and my parents. No matter what I do, I could have the worst game or the best game, but it's just been awesome to have that support system.
How important is that when it comes to communication? Because we have a lot of former professional athletes that are here in the Bay Area, and I've coached baseball for a while, and I think that was one of the big things that I was able to pick the brain of some of my buddies that did play pro ball, is them as a parent. They really wanted to separate the two, and they didn't want to, like, be so hard. They want to be there. They want to be intense. They want to make sure that you're giving a great effort, but they really wanted to make sure that there was a little bit of a difference between dad and the coach, or mom and the coach. Just talk about that. Like, your dad's got one of the greatest jobs in the world, right? Like, he's one of the most respected NFL coaches, right? And people, your last name is one of those, like, you can't write the history of football without the Harbaugh family being involved. But at the end of the day, like, he's your dad, right? So, like, how has that
Yeah.
balance been over the years with, your dad, being such a prominent name there in the NFL and in football, but him always being there for you, like you just said, just being dad and being kind of, an ear to listen and also a shoulder to, just lean on maybe during some tough times.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when I was a kid, I didn't fully appreciate his coaching advice, probably because he's your dad, right? You don't want to listen to
Right.
your dad. And then finally, I think in high school, as recruiting picked up and stuff, I'm like, all right, he kind of knows what he's talking about. This is kind of what he does for a living. But ever since then, we play one-on-one in the backyard. He gives me great tips. But I think it is like a balance that even most parents, even if they're not coaches, probably struggle with, and I'm going to be
Right.
thinking about as a parent as well. I think probably the difference between a parent and a coach, or even if you're a good coach, you should do this as well. He does it with his players, but at the end of the day, he's like, the best piece of advice he's given me is like, hey, if you worked hard and you did your best, you can lay down your head on the pillow at night and be proud of yourself, And I know that no matter what I do, my parents are infinitely proud of me, and they're just so happy I'm here and I get to be on the field, and like what a blessing it is to be in Florida playing lacrosse at this level, I mean, it's just incredible. So I think he's so proud of that, and I've definitely over the years I got matured in my own way, and now I can finally take coaching tips from him. But yeah, it's a tough thing, but it's such a blessing.
He's your parents have done such a great job raising you, and I'm sure they love in Florida too. I remember I went to the
Yeah.
Ravens Buccaneers game years ago, and it was raining and it was wet, and I was all the way in the top and all the way in the corner. Allison, I was literally the farthest person from your dad that day. It was free. There's a picture of me up in Baltimore like this, and I go,
Oh, man,
I'm like,
bet.
I love football, I love football, I love football. Like that was dedication right there.
Yeah.
I loved it. Who would you say who's the most competitive Harbaugh out of the bunch?
Oh, well, I'm gonna say me. Everyone's probably gonna say themselves. I'm gonna say myself, but I'm sure that everyone else would beg to differ. But it's hilarious whenever we don't get to see each other as much as probably other families, just because everyone has different seasons and their teams, and we're all spread out right now across the country. But every time we get together, it's like, oh, who's the tallest? Let's measure our wingspans, or like, let's go play a game of pickup basketball. That's gonna be friendly, but it turns out not to be friendly. And it's just hide and seek for 2 hours, who can be in the best hiding spot. So I think like any family is a friendly competition, maybe just on steroids a little bit, but everyone's got that edge about them, and that's why they're successful. You have to have that edge, I think, but it's been fun.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I mean, my girlfriend doesn't come from like a sports background, but I do, right? My dad was the coach, not at the same level as your dad, but he coached, my grandfather coached, they're just sports was in our DNA, and we're always competing, we're always playing games, we're always shooting shriveled up pieces of paper in a
Yeah.
garbage can or something. I'm sure echoing
Yep.
the sentiments of things that you do with your family. It's like I couldn't imagine not being like that. I couldn't imagine just sitting on the couch. Like we compete, like trying to put puzzles together quicker. Like it's crazy stuff, man. So
I know. I don't know if it's good or bad.
Yeah, of course, I know, right? It's just the way it goes. Like I'd rather it be that way than anything else.
Yes.
What's the dynamic with the team? One thing I loved after that first game is that seems like a very close-knit group. What was the dynamic with the team after some losses? Because it's easy to be riding high when you've been playing, you haven't played as much. You've only played 6 games together so far. But after you lose a couple games, especially the close one, who stepped up, who said something, what was kind of the message, right? Because we all know, and I'm sure preaching to the choir here, good teams are even kill. You never get too high, you never get too low. But it just seems like you were able to kind of flip the switch, and then that game against St. Bonaventure was just like, wow, that's what you want to see every single time. How were you ladies able to compartmentalize that and come out better on the other side?
Yeah, that's a great question. Coach Britt, I was talking to her after the UF game, and I was kind of down about it. I thought we could have played better, and she said, "Hey, give yourself 24 hours to grieve about it, and then it's on to the next game." I was like, "Dang, you're so right." So I think our team, especially after the 2 losses in a row, and we were so close with the Towson one, it's invaluable to have our players who have been through seasons, and maybe a little older, like to kind of step up and be like, hey, it's okay. It's we got like 14 games, and this is just the beginning. We're not even in conference. And I think Sophia Jules, Tags, Maggie, really Paige, all of them do such a great job of kind of setting the example and the standard for the younger girls. And I think after the Towson game, especially, we knew we could play better, and we kind of came back with a vengeance, I guess, for the next week. Not even so much against the other team, but just knowing that we could play better and just to live to our full potential and execute, put shots away. So I think our team is a very positive team. We didn't get too down. We kind of just looked to the next thing and focused on that week and what we were doing to kind of move on and get the good vibes going again.
I love it. Before I let you go, I got to ask you, because I've been covering sports for over a decade here in Tampa, and I've been to every sporting event you can go to here, whether it's an MMA, WWE, high school, college, lacrosse, baseball, softball, everything, volleyball, it don't matter. I don't know if I've ever seen a team as happy as after that first win. And it was just incredible. The fireworks going on in the background. And it wasn't like, celebrating and being, you weren't bragging. You weren't trying to make the other team feel bad. It was pure joy and happiness.
Yeah.
And it was incredibly refreshing because, and one thing I love about, college athletics on the female side, and I say this when I work and cover softball, is like, never down. You got to be a great teammate. That's such an, precedent on you have to not just focus on yourself. It's about everybody. And I wish the men's side would take heed to that a little bit more too. But that first win, Allison, it was just, I was standing on the field looking around like, oh my God, like you guys were beaming with pride and joy and emotion. When you look back on that night, 10, 20, 30 years from now, what are you going to remember most about that evening?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like you said, it was just pure joy. I think Coach did a great job the week going into the game, being like, obviously we got to execute and get the job done, but she was like, just while you're on the field, take a moment to kind of take it all in and enjoy it, because there's, like you said earlier, there's only one inaugural game, and they did a great job of advertising it. So like, so many people were there. I think there were almost 3,000 people there, set a Florida record or something. And and I think the anticipation too of the training year last year, it was so much build up. It was like February 7th was on our calendar for a year and a half. And I think, it was a long time. But now, it was a perfect balance of getting what we needed to get done, but just being able to like take a look around and just be like, this is a day I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. Probably one of the best days of my life today, 100%. That and my wedding will probably be like the two best days ever. But so it was just incredible. I don't know how else to describe it other than pure joy. And we got to enjoy that moment, that inaugural moment. And then now we're just kind of rolling with the season. So it was incredible.
It was. And I know sometimes people, and I don't think this is a great idea, but some people will say, don't ever say this is the best day of your life or one of the best days of your life. Listen, the more times you can say that in this short time we're on this earth, the better.
Yes,
so don't ever feel bad about that, because I didn't want to speak in hyperbole and say that it was, one of the best days of my life, because I wasn't on the team. But it was, it's to be 100% transparent and honest with you, Allison, it's the night that I won't forget. And I was just the guy. The only thing that I have to hang my hat on, I was the first person to ask a question to Coach McCord after the game. That was it, right? As far as my involvement. But it's those moments of life in life that you're going to look back on. You can't take your money in your bank account with you. You can't do any of this other stuff with you. But when you're laying on your deathbed one day and you think back at all the great things that you've been able to accomplish, the appearances that you have, the people that you meet, those are the kind of memories. The more you have, the better and more fulfilling that your life is. So I'm so glad that you've been able to experience that. And I thank you on behalf of everybody in the Tampa Bay area for not just, your play on the field, but your leadership and the way that you're active with all of the other players in our community and just representing the green and gold in the Tampa Bay area. So congratulations on all your success. I cannot wait to see you. I'll probably be out there on Sunday as well. For everybody out there, get on out there. Go usfbulls.com for your information. There's a lot of shady third-party sites trying to sell USF tickets. There's only one place to get them. Go usfbulls.com. All the information is on there. Our lacrosse team, 4-2. They're going to go to 5-2 this weekend. Sunday, 1 p.m. against Xavier. Bark at the Park, and salute to service over there at Corbett Stadium. Allison, this has been an incredible time. Thank you so much for joining me, and good luck this weekend. We'll talk soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jay.
You got it. Alison Harbaugh. How awesome to be able to chat with her. Yeah, and somebody said too, she sounds like a Harbaugh. Yeah, that's what it is. Like that's the way it goes, right? She's raised by some prominent figures in football that are just so friendly with the media and so upfront about their faith and family and just leadership. Oh my God, like that's why people want to go play for the Harbaughs, right? That's why you want to go play for the Ravens and now go play for the Chargers, because that love for the game and the people that you're surrounded with. And, you can see that with Alison, just the joy of life. If I can implore anything to people that tune into the podcast, is surround yourself with good people. Surround yourself with people that you're going to make memories with, that you're going to remember, and it'll last a lifetime. And that's why I love doing this show. Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of a change, leaving radio and coming here, but to be able to have a day like today, International Women's Day, where we're celebrating the incredible women in sports, even my mom that was on an hour ago, that's what it's all about, man. Surround yourself with good people and good things are going to happen. And we're going to end the show with one of my favorite people in the Tampa Bay area. It's Gabby Shirley, a Lightning reporter. And, I say this a lot when it comes to, the people that a lot of our friends and family members and people you meet, you see somebody on TV and they're like, they seem like a really nice person. How are they? And you're one of the people that I get that question asked a lot. And I say, if you like her on TV, she's even better in person. And I'm just so grateful for our friendship and that you can join me today on the International Women's Day program here on the Jay Recher podcast, closing it out, the closer like you are. We finished on such a high note. What's going on, my friend? How are you?
Hi, Jay. Thank you for that introduction. I am lovely. I am back at Amalie Arena as we await 3 p.m.
Yeah.
Deadline. We were at practice in Brandon at 11:30, so I was there, and now I'm here talking to you.
Don't worry, I'll keep an eye on social media too, so if anything breaks, we'll find out at the same time.
Perfect.
Charlie Coyle just got traded from the Boston Bruins to the Colorado Avalanche. It looks like Casey Middlestad going the other way. Casey Middlestad was actually involved in the trade, if a lot of people remember. High draft pick going from Buffalo to Colorado for Bowen Byram, and Bowen Byram on the Buffalo defense. We saw him last night at Amalie Arena. And now Casey Middlestad on the move again, heading to Boston for Charlie Coyle. Interesting to see what the Bruins do. I know there's been a lot of people wondering if they would trade their captain, Brad Marchand. We'll find out.
Yeah.
As we get closer and closer to the 3 o'clock deadline, about 54 minutes away. And if anything breaks, Gabby and I will have it for you right here on the Jay Recher podcast. We got you. Last night was another one of those names, right? Another one of those games where to hear the ovation, and you were there on the bench, to hear the ovation for Yanni Gourde, to see Oliver Bjorkstrand score the game winner. It was a wild game. It wasn't a game that the coach is going to look like and say, love how we played there, because there were some defensive miscues and what have you. But to be able to end on a high note, to get the 2 points, to win 6-5, to see Oliver and Yanni be welcomed and then celebrated and then successful. I mean, what a great way to start their tenure, and just kind of a real nice, kind of star on, a certain game for this season.
Yeah, Jay, the past 48 hours for me has been a whirlwind. So I can't imagine what those two players have been going through. But yes, I think wonderful ads for the Tampa Bay Lightning. We have some additional players that can score. The Lightning don't really have trouble scoring, but again, it never hurts. And as they make this push to the playoffs, they need extra guys. They need some additional depth up there in their forwards. So great ads. And yes, two guys that seem wonderful. A lot of us know Yanni Gourde. IJ did not work here when he was a member of the Tampa Bay Lightning, but I worked at NBC here in Tampa. Right. So I covered him from that standpoint. Was always a great interview. And I've heard nothing but good things. And as he said, I really have, Jay, over the past 4 seasons of myself being with the Lightning, I've heard that he misses Tampa so much. So perhaps that was a bit of a dream that then became a reality for Yanni Gourde to come back here. And Oliver Bjorkstrand, I mean, again, just a few conversations with him, Jay, but he has been nothing but wonderful and also seems excited. And yes, you said it, the Tampa Bay Lightning definitely got better as that game went on. First period was really questionable. The second period, again, a little bit better. Jake Gensel ties it at 5. He has a hat trick in just that second period, scoring 3 goals. And then for the two of them to come together, Nikita Kucherov, of course, gets the secondary assist on that game-winning goal. But that was just amazing. And yeah, all the little bits and pieces, Yanni Gord coming back. He loves this place. That ovation that you mentioned. I asked Gage Gonsalves about it today after practice. He was the third skater on that line with the two new guys. And he said, like, he's never heard the arena so loud. Like, just all the little bits and pieces, like, really made for such a special night inside Amalie Arena last night.
Yeah, and I want to ask you about Jake Gensel, the hat trick last night. And I asked John Cooper that in the postgame. I said, that was kind of a classic, like, drag your team into the fight type of performance. And Coop kind of agreed, he didn't all the way, but he's just, I knew he was good, Gab, but I mean, he's just one of those guys where even if other things aren't going well, like, he's not one of those guys where, like, if your team's playing well, then Jake's playing well. Like, I think he just plays well all the time. And even if sometimes he plays a little bit more of a secondary role, maybe point Kucherov for the guys that are doing all the work, and he'll have 3 assists. But then you see a game like last night where it's like, all right, boys, hop on my back. Not everybody's playing their best. Here's what I got to do. And he's just been such a fantastic impact on this team this year.
Yeah, and Jay, right, him coming in, it was always the hockey mind, the hockey sense. And I perhaps have even said this to you before, that as I'm still learning the game, like, I wasn't really able to grasp that. And I don't know if I can even verbalize it now, but just seeing how he plays, like, you can see that he knows where to be. He knows which plays to make. John Cooper has said, like, not the biggest guy, not the fastest guy, doesn't have the strongest shot, but somehow he manages to put it all together with that hockey mind. And he is just so impactful out there on the ice. And Jay, not to take anything away from him, and I guess we'll see if this proves to be true with Bjorkstrand here with the Lightning, but both of those two players had dads who were hockey coaches. So I feel that kind of trickles down a little bit. So I'm looking to see if there are any similarities between those two.
1,000%. I don't think that's a stretch to say that at all. And ironically enough, you say that. We just had Alison Harbaugh on before you, who her dad's the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens and her uncle's the head coach of the LA Chargers. So, and her dad was actually an assistant coach with your Eagles. I know you're an Eagles fan growing up.
Yeah.
So there you go. Update on Victor Hedman. I know he left last night. We did see him walking around yesterday, so it doesn't seem like, usually if a guy's really banged up, you don't see him. He walks out later, but he seemed to be talking to everybody when I walked by him. And I know he didn't skate today. So I think Jeff Halpern said something about Hetty, right?
Yes. So Jay, practice today, everyone was out there with the exception of the players that competed in the Four Nations face-off, including John Cooper. He was not on the ice today. And that was just like a rest day because those guys played so much over that break that we all had. And the schedule's been so crazy. There are not many days for them to get that rest. So none of them were there. And I'm looking at my X right now to make sure I get it correctly. Jeff Blashill spoke today. He said that there wasn't really an update. There were some evaluations that happened this morning, and they'll know perhaps later on today. We will know tomorrow if he's able to go or not for the game on Saturday.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to rush him back. You're scratching a guy like Nick Perbix, so if you have to go with those 6 for a while, I think that makes sense. There's no reason. I think just the big sign is, like, as you get closer to the playoffs, like, if he's got to take a couple of games to get right, take a couple of games, right? You don't want it to turn into a big thing because we know how physical it is in the playoffs. So yeah, you're going to need Victor Hedman. You're going to need your captain to be as close to 100% because once you get to the playoffs, nobody's really 100% anyway. So it's just kind of the nature of the beast. But what have you noticed, Gab? I mean, the last couple of weeks, even before the Four Nations with this team, I mean, they've just been playing so well, and just watching them, it's hard not to think back to a couple of years ago when they won the cup, because defensively, we know that's where, their bread is buttered, and that's where all great teams have to be good at if you're going to be the last team standing. But it just seems like the full complement. They're getting scoring from, down in the bottom 6. They're getting great defense last night, notwithstanding, and fantastic goaltending from Andrei Vasilevsky. What is it like being around that group, knowing that it seems like they know, like, hey, we're playing some of our best hockey of the year?
Yeah, Jay, it really seems like the Tampa Bay Lightning, this team, they're clicking on all fronts, all aspects. which is really nice to see. I know I've said this before, but my job is just so much lighter, easier walking into that room when they are hot like they are right now. Everyone's happier. Everyone's in a great mood, willing to chat about this, that, and the other. And I don't know, Jay, I have been spoiled, but I just feel like, yeah, like this is the Tampa Bay Lightning hockey that like I've become used to.
Right.
I mentioned this to a coworker even just yesterday. You know, I do interviews. I'm on the team side. So if we're losing by 3 or more goals, or it's more than 3, again, it hasn't happened in a while, which is my point. We do not do an interview. No one wants to talk. We're not going to make the players talk in an intermission. And Jay, I can't remember the last time that I missed an interview because of a score like that. And I feel like last season, not that we were a bad team, but it happened fairly often.
Right.
As you mentioned first in your list of things that the Lightning are doing well, defense. And that's what this entire team is pointing to. We're playing really well defensively. And because we're playing really well defensively, that just spurs our offense. The Lightning haven't had trouble scoring all season long, and they get 2 guys that can put the puck in the back of the net. So again, I'm really excited for what this team is going to show even in the next few games, Jay, because I was already pumped to watch them every single game with the group that we had, and they just got a whole lot better.
Yeah, I can't wait to see, Bjorkstrand and Gordon kind of settling in, and maybe some of these younger guys too getting called back up. Do we see a Geeky? Do we see Isaac Howard get called up after the Michigan State season is done? I still think there's more room to grow here with this team. I'm excited about the end of the season. I think they'll be ready for whoever the kind of the opponent is. It is International Women's Day tomorrow, and we are celebrating today with our good friend Gabby Shirley. I always like to highlight women on this day every single year. You know that, and we go around the country to make sure that they get highlighted. Just talk about, we kind of mentioned this before, but just as kind of a female and I would say a male-dominated industry, but you're seeing more and more ladies in hockey, which is a great thing. But how about from when you first started covering hockey, even with WFLA, to now? Like, and I saw you yesterday, you're talking to our friend Eileen from WFLA and Emily Kaplan. Like, it was just, you guys were laughing and having a good time. Just talk about how that changed and how you've seen, and there's probably more growth that needs to happen, but how much it's grown in your time.
Yeah, Jay, I don't even know. I guess I would say, and I've said this before in so many words, but for me personally, being a woman in sports, I don't really think about it that much because, again, this is just coming from me, Jay. If I were to hype it up in my head that like, oh, I'm walking into this locker room of all NHL players and like I'm the only like that would just totally throw me. I would be a disaster. So I kind of just, generally speaking, and this is kind of how I go about life in this way, like I try to be as prepared as possible. If you're so prepared for kind of any situation, like there's a chance you'll do okay, which gives me the confidence to just go in there and be myself. So I haven't ever really like keyed in on it. But yes, you mentioned like my friends that are in the industry. Like I feel proud to see them do what they do and to see them succeeding in this business. And recently, Jay, as I am growing in my role here with the Lightning, I've been like hosting a little bit more and trying to participate in different events that are outside of practice games, which is still a little hard for me because I'm a bit paranoid. And I hosted an event yesterday for some of our longtime season ticket members. And the event was not about me. I was the host and we had 2 great guests and they did all the talking, answered all the questions. And afterwards, like I met, give or take, like 10 people that just kept coming up to me, women, men, like, and saying how much of an inspiration I am. And a lot of it was based on inspiration for other females. And sometimes that gets lost on me a little bit, but it's really nice to hear and always a really good reminder. Again, Jay, you know me pretty well. I would never like remember that and think like, okay, I need to be better. Like I try to carry myself in the best possible way all the time, 100%. But it's just a good reminder and like it makes me feel really good.
I'm glad you get that reminder because I feel like sometimes that's part of our friendship. I got to let you know, like you are, you're one of those voices that count in our community. Like you really are. Like your opinion carries weight, and you are not just a female you're a sports voice. You're a person that we all, but with that being said, like you are inspiring young girls and young, I had a local hockey player, a high school girl, follow me on Instagram last night, and just looking at her stuff, and she's a huge hockey fan. And like, I'm just thinking about that, like
Awesome.
that young girl is watching this, and she's watching Gabby Shirley, and she's watching these female hockey players, and it's just like being around the game. Like, it doesn't have to just be one person that you glean inspiration from. It's everybody,
Yeah.
right? Everybody, your interests, they come from so many different facets of your life. So yeah, don't ever please forget that. I'm glad that people go up to you and remind you that, because I know you're not like that. I know you're not like, well, I have to do this. Like, you're just going to be even keel. That's just the way you go. What's been kind of your favorite experience from either the road this year or with the players this year? Because, oh, that's okay. Look at that.
Hold on. I'm in a meeting conference.
You have to
room.
stand up.
The
The
light.
motion light. There we go.
Yeah, I've been too still for too long. Why aren't I waving my hands around?
That's
Hi,
all
I'm back.
good.
Okay, sorry.
What's been your favorite moment from just covering the team this year? Whether it's a city you went to or the game, the players you've been around. What do you think?
Oh my gosh, that's such a hard one. Because really every day is so new and fun, like different
Mhm.
experiences. Okay, I'm not necessarily going to answer your question because I cannot think of something that really stands out, but here's a good example today, Jay. Shout out to our defenseman, JJ Moser. We
Mhm.
had practice, just a regular old practice at the practice facility, minus our Four Nations guys, as I mentioned.
Right.
And I was given a heads up by my boss that his parents were going to be there. He is from Switzerland. Parents are in town. They came in 9:30 this morning. Practice was at 11:30. So much food, Jay. All of this food. They brought Swiss chocolate. His mom was up at 6 a.m. baking loaves of bread. All of these cheeses, because the go-to snack there, bread and cheese or bread and chocolate. And then they were cutting up in the like team meal area, fresh tomatoes with this special seasoning, laying it all out. Like, wait. And I was told from members of the Tampa Bay Lightning staff that have been there for a very long time, they have never witnessed this, but a player's family wanting to just share a little bit of their culture with all of the players, the staff, myself. I'm very inquisitive. I asked a million questions, asked more questions to JJ after. He was laughing at me like, didn't you talk to my mom enough? No, I didn't. So like things like that, Jay, are the things like the behind the scenes things that I'm allowed to share with everyone else. Like, it's just like so touching to me that like JJ Moser, I know you've talked to him, Jay, at length, great guy. Like it makes so much sense that these are his parents.
Right. Yeah. You can kind of tell people, you can kind of tell like how somebody is after you meet their parents. You go, that makes a lot of sense. Because you're right. Because like I'll be in the locker room and I'll just talk to JJ for like 90 seconds. I think it's just a quick thing, whatever. And he'll like sit down next to me and he'll just go off. Usually about soccer, but it's about something. And it's just like, he just keeps going. It's like, I can't walk away. I'm not trying to be rude. And it's not like I don't want to talk to the guy, but you get the players a space, it's just like quick here and there, but JJ Moser is not like that. And he hangs around after every game. He's the last guy to get ready. I'm almost positive that he just like hangs around just so somebody's there to talk to. Like, it's just, I love that guy. And isn't it crazy too, Gab? And you're the perfect person to ask this. I had this discussion the other day. He missed 28 games due to injury, right?
Doesn't look like he did.
I think he played 20. You're right. I think he played in 27 games, then missed 28, and he's been back for, a couple of weeks now. But I don't know if I've ever seen a player become a fan favorite that wasn't a big time goal scorer or a big time checker, right? It's not like JJ Moser does anything out there that like is going to wow you every single game. He's not a 20 goal scorer as a defenseman. He's not like hitting people like a Lilleberg hits people, but people love this guy. And I don't know whether it's like the interviews that you guys have done with him or it's just, how steady he is on the ice, but I don't know if I've ever seen that type of player become a fan favorite that quickly.
You just said the word that I was going to say as far as his play goes, like steady. And he makes the right play 99.9% of the time. Yes, Jay, and I feel, as you said, not a big time goal scorer, not these big flashy plays. So I feel like we don't even hear from him, even though we talk to him in the room. We don't even hear from him on camera like all that often. But I think when we do, like, he's just he gives you like thoughtful answers, is
Right.
so great to speak to. Yeah, and I agree, like fan favorite for sure, and I think it's a very good choice.
Yeah, it's funny when I had him on, we were talking. I was like, "All right, I need an interview real quick." And then he goes, "Okay," and he's just so like buttoned up, like, "All right, let's do the professional thing really quick," which I loved.
Very
I just had Tricia Whitaker on earlier, and we spoke about a lot of the things that she was able to do for Bally and then FanDuel with the Rays players. And I know you know all the things that you do, not just for whether it's on the FanDuel side, but also for the Lightning with the players and going to their hometowns, and like how gratifying is that to not just know these players on an athletic level, but also a personal level by going to their hometowns and meeting their families.
It's great. And I don't know if it's something about just like my personality, but like I really do enjoy meeting new people.
Right.
And obviously I am just around these players so often. Sorry if you heard that, computer. I'm around these players so often that I'm so interested in seeing where they came from and who raised them, and meeting the siblings that maybe they mentioned, and dad that taught them how to shoot the puck, and just different things like that. So going on the Bolts Beginnings trips is so great. And that's really where we do form those great relationships. Victor Hedman's parents have been in town. I keep running into his dad in the hallways, which is awesome. After Team Canada won the Four Nations face-off, because I met Brandon Hagel's dad, he was sending me some photos of like the post-game like celebrations. Brandon Hagel's sister is here now. So yeah, I really enjoy meeting them. And then it's so great when you see them here in Tampa. It's just like catching up with an old friend. And I guess, Jay, like just on a normal human level, I love it. But professionally, like it's helpful too, just to kind of get a glimpse more so of who you've been dealing with and different, oh my gosh, your sister's here and your nephew, like Hudson Hagel's going to be the Thunder kid, like, different cool stories that they are, obviously they always get to say, but usually willing to share.
What's been your favorite city to go to for one of those Bolts Beginnings?
I feel bad picking a spot because I never like find favorites, but we go to Toronto often and Canada often. So the two that obviously stand out, just with that being said, are Victor Hedman's hometown of Sweden and Eric Chernak in Slovakia.
So tell us that, let's go with Hetty first. Going to Sweden, when they first bring that topic up to you, like, hey, because I'm sure like when you do Bolts Beginnings, you're going to do like, oh, this is cool, Canada. Will we ever go to Sweden? Right? Does that thought process ever go to your mind? Then when that topic gets brought up. I didn't really believe it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, again, Victor Hedman, like just the best. And he was so gracious, and we just got like the whole tour of like the spots that are special to him. And again, Jay, it was a work trip, but like just above and beyond like all of, I think collectively our group that was working, our expectations. But personally, like I love to travel. So going to see like a place that I don't know if I will ever go to otherwise was so incredible.
So how many people do the Lightning send on trips like that?
Gosh, and I'm trying to think, I should have refreshed my memory, but it's typically myself, Gabe Marte, who is the head of all our video production, Mikey O'Halloran, another videographer, has probably a better title than that. We usually bring a third.
Chowda. His name's Chowda.
Chowda, yes. Chowda. Most of the players do not know that his name is Mikey.
They do such a great job. They kill it.
We have a project manager, sometimes social, sometimes a writer. So there's like a group of 5, 6, 7. We have a contracted drone operator, 8 people. So it's like a crew. It's not 3 of us. It's like, again, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So again, families are opening their homes, and it's not 2 people sitting on the couch. There is multiple cameras, a lot going on, and they've just always been so gracious.
Is there any place that you haven't been to yet that you would like to go?
As far as player visits,
Yeah. Do you think of any of those? Like, would you want to go to going to Switzerland to see JJ Moser?
like
I mean, I feel like that's like the next one, right? Like,
I
if
like
you had,
recently mentioned it to his mom today. I think she was talking about just how they prepare the food, eat the food here, there, and I was like, well, I'll come for dinner. Like, she's like, yeah, sure, come. Like, she was so friendly, so lovely. Busy, Jay. Like, again, she brought so much food. But yes, I would love to.
think about this. So they bought all that food here, right? Or did they bring it with them?
So they brought all the chocolate for
Okay,
sure.
right.
He made the bread this morning, 6 a.m. She was like saying, I hope it's good. Like, I don't know his oven. There are some different ingredients, different grains that she had to use. I would imagine the cheese she also bought here, but I don't know. Maybe she transported something because she carried it on the plane. So maybe she transported some sort of cooling mechanism. I'm not sure.
That's so awesome.
But she had to carry it on because she said the suitcase, like an actual carry-on suitcase, was too heavy even if she wanted to check it. Because she had massive chocolate bars, at least 100 of them.
Oh, what?
Mm-hmm.
100 chocolate bars?
At least. Yeah. Look, you know what? And I didn't even take these, Jay. They were given to me.
What is that? Weiss?
Okay, this is a white chocolate.
Weiße Schokolade.
You're getting a demonstration, a crunchy one.
Over Maltine.
And this one, JJ's given me before, but this has like cornflakes in it, and this is his favorite.
So when you bring those home, are you the most popular person in the house?
I don't really share that well. No, I'll share. But
I was like, what chocolate? What chocolate? I didn't get chocolate. I didn't get chocolate today. What's so somebody asked you, and we'll finish off on this. Where does Gabby Shirley see herself in 5 or 10 years? What's the ultimate goal? When people ask you that question, because I know how much you love working with the Lightning.
Yeah.
What is the goal? Like, is there a goal? Is there a job maybe one day, or a city one day, or something that you want to achieve before your career ends?
Jay, it's such a good question. And I feel that
do you want to host Saturday Night Live or something like that?
That'd be crazy. Well, and you know this better than the majority of people, but for anyone listening who does not, like, I feel, right, Jay, there's only a limited number of team reporter positions in the NHL, obviously. But I think it goes a bit like under the radar, just how great for the outside world, how great this organization is.
Yeah.
And it's come up a lot recently, even just with like my family, who, again, this is my 4th season, like nothing's really new. But my family visited me in Washington, D.C., Jay, for the game that we just had there, and like ran into Coop, ran into some players because they were at our hotel. Like again, my mom and dad know, but they just couldn't believe like the relationships and how wonderful and kind everyone was. So this job is great, but I think the organization and the people that I work with and I'm surrounded by is just like what makes it like elite. Mm-hmm. So the thought of leaving that for some job that seems maybe better or bigger in some way, like you never know who you're going to get as far as coworkers and a boss. Right. And so that like really scares me. So I'm really happy where I am now. Of course, any sort of like national role, maybe even if I could do a little bit of both in the future would be really cool. But I'm really happy where I am right now. And I don't see myself really leaving Florida. Well, I love it here. And my husband has a company here. So
yeah, well, that has a lot to do with it as well. That's good. And I think a lot of people, when we talk about this a lot on the athlete side, right? You're like, oh, the money and this and that. And it's just like, man, there really is something, Gabby, to just like your mental health and the peace and just knowing where you're going to get groceries from, knowing who you're going to call when you need something, working with good people and not having to like tiptoe into a room because you work with people that you kind of like and you kind of don't like you can just walk with your head held high. You know exactly what's going on. There's like, the surprises are what happens on the ice, right? And just dealing with people on day to day, dealing with professional athletes, you just never know what's going to happen. But it's just fun. Like it's fun what we do and who we do it with, right?
And Jay, I would also say too, and I've been saying this to a couple friends recently as well, like Emily Kaplan, We all know her for the work that she does with ESPN. And I saw her last game. It was on their channel, and she was so complimentary of what I've been doing. I'm like, what do you mean? And she just thought like, I don't know, had more to offer this season, was just elevating in some way. And I thought about it for a second, Jay, and I told her, like, Emily, honestly, in the most positive way and not in the like sitting back and just cooling your heels, but like I feel really comfortable probably for the first time in my role, which I think is just, again, I hope leading to me to try to be more, do more. Like I said, hosting this event the other day, like before, if you tried to have a 3-minute conversation with me in the hallway, I would have been running because like I missed 3 minutes of reading an article online. Like, so I feel that there's always still a lot of room for me to grow in this position. Perhaps other people, there are different positions where like I've maxed out, like, yeah, I got to find something different, new, harder, a different challenge. But at least right now, like I feel like there's still so much room to grow.
No, I'm with you. I definitely see that with you, because I remember early on, you would tell me like, if there's anything I need to do or anything I need to fix, please let me know. You were always so humble and so down to earth and just so open to ideas, and you still are today. But you can just tell like the growth. It's inspiring as a colleague, as a friend. Even like yesterday, like when we have like Bjorkstrand, or I forgot who it was, and it was just like you didn't feel like you had it. I feel like that's a tough thing when you're in a scrum. Sometimes like you don't. No one asked a question. No one in. A lot of times you're the first person to ask a question. And I was even busting Coop's balls about that yesterday. Like, first question. He goes, you don't get the first question, which is, but those are one of those unspoken things, right? When people talk about money and going all these different things, like those little scrums that we have. And it was great yesterday because there were so many TV crews, but it's usually the same 5 or 6 peeps, right? It's like all of us, we kind of know what the cadence is. You get the questions in, Eric gets them in, Eddie gets them in, I get them in, Deandra, like it's just a little pop, 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 pop. And then boom, there's 6 or 7 minutes of content and we all go do what we got to do. And I think that kind of familiarity and that kind of consistency, I think when you don't have that, you miss it so much. And we do have like a nice, like, vibe going with the people that are in and around this team, don't we? Yeah, absolutely. I love seeing all of you guys, everyone that you just named at the rink. It's so much fun every single day. I really do mean that. Yeah, it's a lot of fun as always. Gabby Shirley, go check her out, doing yeoman's work for the Lightning as the reporter. FanDuel, wherever the Lightning are, that's where she'll be. No big trades for the Tampa Bay Lightning as of yet. They've got 24 minutes to go. Thank you, my friend. Again, International Women's Day. We ended it on such a high note with a person that I not only consider a colleague, but a dear, dear friend. And you make me so proud when you go out there and you do your thing to the utmost of you crush it all the time. So I'm so happy for you and all of your success. Give my love to the family. And I won't be there tomorrow because I'm working for USF, but we'll see each other at Amalie Arena very, very soon. Okay. Thank you so much, Jay. Proud of everything you're doing here. And please have me on again, all right? We always have fun, regardless of where we are. 5-minute chats or 30-minute chats on the podcast. Never a dull moment when Gabby and Jay get together. Thank you, my friend. Have a great weekend. Bye. The best. Gabby Shirley. She's so awesome. Again, another one of those people that when people ask about it, they're like, what is she like? That's who she is. That's who she is. And the humility that she carries herself with and the way that she's always trying to get better. And I love what she said when she was talking about, being comfortable. Now, don't mistake comfort for complacency, because that's not who she is. She doesn't get complacent, but there's also an understanding of like, there's a pattern, there's a cadence of doing your job. I get it here. I mean, right here on the podcast, when I first, am I tweeting out this? Am I doing this? Now I got a nice little flow going of, right, I know I'm going to send this out. I'm going to cut this up. I'm going to send these videos out. Boom, 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 boom. You kind of get into a rhythm. You kind of get into a hustle and flow that really works out. And man, she's just firing on all cylinders right now. And we're just so lucky. We have so many incredibly talented people that cover sports in the Tampa area, but just look at the Lightning. Look at the Lightning. I mean, even just the crew for FanDuel, when you see Dave Randorf and Brian Engblom, those are 2 national guys. Like, I remember watching Brian on ESPN growing up, right? With the big old glasses on the ice, interviewing people after the Stanley Cup. Dave Randorf, he's a very well-respected guy north of the border. He was a national guy. I mean, Paul Kennedy, like that guy's a freaking legend. And whether it's Andrew Chuck or Adam Hall or Braden Coburn, like phenomenal job. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, Gabby Shirley, who, I wouldn't be surprised if a network, tries to snatch her away from Tampa. We hope not. We hope she stays here, but she is that damn talented, an even better human being. So we are very blessed to have wonderful people that work for the Tampa Bay Lightning in and around the area. This has been such a great show, and I want to thank everybody for their love and their support. Everybody that joined us on the program today. Nights like tonight days like today really mean a lot. They do, because not everybody highlights the things that I highlight, and this isn't looking at myself going, I do this or I do that. No, it's about a celebration. It's a celebration of women in and around the sports world. And once again, I just want to show love for everybody that joined us on the show today. All 5 of the wonderful women, including Stephanie Hypes from the WWE out there in Arizona, Tricia Whitaker up there in Indiana, my mother, Sue, at 1 o'clock, Alison Harbaugh from the USF Women's Lacrosse team at 1:45, and then we close the show the only way we know how, with our good friend Gabby Shirley. Whew, that was a lot, but it was a lot of fun. All right, so here's what we got going on in the next couple of days. So tonight I will be at Jesuit High School, Jesuit and TC baseball. This is it right here. These two teams play each other twice, but tonight at Higher Park there in Tampa, go to this game. If you have an opportunity to go there on Himes, and go watch. If you've never been to a game, you're looking for something to do tonight, go to that game. It'll be well worth it. A lot of scouts going to be out there. A lot of people. You go to a Jesuit TC game, you go to a game and see people that you haven't seen in a long time. That's just the way it goes. It is wild. It's going to be a lot of fun. So go out there and go check them out. Also, tomorrow I'll be on the call for USF and Villanova at 2 o'clock. Sunday, I'm going to probably be out there at the Lacrosse game as well. So, again, all of that information, go usfbulls.com. We already have a big-time guest locked in next week, Tuesday at 12:30. Rondé Barber is going to join us on the show. The Hall of Famer, Tampa Bay Buccaneers legend, member of the Copperhead Valspar tournament. We're just weeks away from the Valspar. And we saw Shane Lowry, a late ad, Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, Tommy Fleetwood, some huge names. Tom Kim's going to be there. All that information, valspartournament.org. Go get your tickets. Come check us out. We'll be at the 8th green. Me, my mom, and my dad. There's a lot of great things going on in the Tampa Bay area. NHL trade deadline open for the next about 19 minutes. So business open for the next 19 minutes. Will the Lightning make a move? I think if they haven't made a move by now, they might not be making another one. But we shall see. Also, check out my interview with Sammy Puisis that we put out a couple of hours ago at 8 o'clock this morning. Shout out to the American Athletic Conference, all conference honors. Mama Dembele, USF's first ever defensive player of the year and all defense. Lauren Puto, most improved player. Carla Brito, second team, and Sammy Puisis, first team. Shout out to the Bulls, man. Green and gold. Again, I'm on the call for baseball tomorrow. Go usfbulls.com for all of that information. A thank you once again to Stephanie Hypes and also to Tricia Whitaker, my mother Sue, Alison Harbaugh, Gabby Shirley, and you. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. Celebrate the great women in your life for International Women's Day tomorrow. I'll be back on Monday right here at noon on the